Bullshit.
He watches his mother shoot his father 3 times in the back.
I'm Mr. Blackman. They're the puppets.
Do I look like Quasimodo to you?
What about Jody Lauer? What about China?
Big speech of a deathbed.
Adrenaline rush now. Adrenaline rush now. Adrenaline rush
Well, that's good. So I suppose we should get into the actual reason that we're here tonight, which is the TNA Sacrifice pay-per-view report, which we both watched at Brent Kremen's house. And for those of you that listened to the last Bryan and Vince show and heard all about Brent Kremen, I would like to note 2 things. One, actually several things. One, that I saw Brent Kremen's new apartment, and it does indeed look exactly the same, except it has a bathroom. 2, that when I arrived, Brent's almost his first words were, "So you played my answering machine message on the air." So he knew about this. And 3, Brent Kremen has agreed tomorrow night on the Bryan and Vince show to make an appearance. So when it is posted on Tuesday, we will have a short interview with young Brent Kremen, and you can all get a first-hand look at what the young man is like. So, yeah, that's the excitement there.
You've been warned.
Yeah. So anyway, we saw the pay-per-view over there, and Vince, of course, showed up late, as he is wont to do. And that means I guess I have to cover most of the first match by myself. It was, I should say, first off, that it was a very good show. If you want a pay-per-view with just a whole bunch of great wrestling matches and a huge lack of stupid angles, this was the show to see. And after last month's show and this month's show, I am all for TNA never getting TV and just doing great show after great show because nobody's watching the television and nobody's watching the angles. But they did promote throughout the show that they'd be starting on Spike TV in October, so I guess we'll see how that goes. Any initial thoughts on the show?
No, pretty much. I have nothing to add to what you said that is either relevant or true.
All right. It opened up with Simon Diamond and David Young and Elix Skipper versus Sanjay Dutt, Shark Boy, and Chris Saban. And the angle here is that Simon Diamond has taken young Elix Skipper under his wing as part of his Diamonds in the Rough group, which is a group of jobbers, basically. And he cut this promo where he basically said that Elix Skipper had been overlooked and he was not going to be in the group and get his big break or whatever. And then Mike Tenay was talking about how David Young had one of the longest losing streaks in the history of wrestling. And after coming under the wing of Simon Diamond, he was now turning his career around. And I thought, okay, hold on. He joined the group last month and promptly lost. And I believe he won exactly 1 match at the tapings, which was via fluke. And I guarantee he'll lose this match here. And sure as shit, it actually wasn't David Young that lost. It was Elix Skipper. So he joined the group.
Even better.
Yeah, he joined the group and promptly lost. And it was your basic, TNA opener, lots of high spots and wackiness. And nothing wrong with it. Just something fun to start up the show. And, like I said, Elix Skipper got pinned and then got yelled at by Simon afterwards. So Elix Skipper's career right down the tubes.
Yeah, like Bryan said, I missed most of this. I did actually drive by looking for parking as he was standing outside Brent Kremen's door waiting for Brent to come down.
Oh, thanks for honking and alerting me.
I guess I should have, but I was looking for parking. It was a busy night in downtown Seattle tonight.
Yeah.
Hopping down in the scuzzy neighborhood that Brent Kremen lives in.
And I should note there was this beautiful girl that walked into the bar right next to Brent's apartment as I was waiting for him to come down, and I almost was like, screw this pay-per-view, I'm going to go in the bar. But for you people, I watched the pay-per-view with Brent and Vince.
What a rare and disappointing show of professionalism. That story would have been far better if you had gone into the bar.
I'm sorry.
I could have handled the pay-per-view report.
Yeah. So then we had Alex Shelley versus Shocker, which was the rubber match. And today explained it like a best-of-3 falls match in Mexico for Shocker. And they'd tied 1-1, and this was the finals. And it was, I guess the second match was on the TV that nobody saw, but this was a good match. It was on the mat for about the first half of it. Then they did a lot of near falls to the finish, and Shelley finally got the pin using a cradle and the ropes for leverage. And Shocker, of course, was very upset about that. But once again, a very good match from these two guys. Not the best match on the show or anything like that, but from these two was very good.
It was good, and the booking works because now there's it's to feud Shocker and Shelley, and since the match was good, that's good. And Shocker wrestles kind of an Americanized version of himself. It works though.
Yeah.
But it's different than what he's like on Galavision or AAA. I guess he's AAA now, isn't he?
He also doesn't have, he's AAA now, but he also doesn't have luchadors to work with at this point. So.
Well, there's that, but it's not like a handicap. It's not like he sucks now or anything.
Yeah.
He's adjusted great.
Yeah, different.
What I'm trying to make different. Yeah.
And I'm sure that a lot of American fans are probably wondering what the big deal is about Shocker, merely because you don't get to see his great entrances. He just comes out and he does his wacky pose and he goes to the ring, and you don't get to see like the Aztec get-up or the shirts or the women, the whole 9 yards. But
the
it still works.
blue monkey.
the midget blue monkey.
I can't believe they're not flying in the midget blue monkey.
Yes, and I should say on the air right now that I would like to thank Vince for actually finally getting me a tape of Galavision so I can see Mystico versus Averno. So hopefully I can talk about that tomorrow.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Then we had an interview with James Mitchell and Abyss backstage, which was a very odd interview because James Mitchell, he cuts this great promo. And he had to because Shane Douglas started out saying that these two men going after Lance Hoyt was the equivalent of people in World War II making enormous mistakes, tactical mistakes in the war. And I was like, what the hell does this have to do with anything?
Well, I'm glad I wasn't paying attention to that part.
Oh, yes. And then James Mitchell came out and saved the day with this promo. And meanwhile, Abyss just grunted in the background. And thank God for James Mitchell that he has a job. So that led us into the match of the evening, which I'm sure Vince will have way more to talk about than I do. But it was Abyss versus Lance Hoyt. And Lance Hoyt had his entire Lance Hoyt fan club in the first 3 rows. And I will say that his fan club added at least a full star to this match because Lance Hoyt is really awful in a lot of ways. And Abyss isn't exactly Vader in his prime. But they worked really hard. Lance Hoyt was jumping around and doing all these high spots and flying and everything like that. And, yeah, they did a bunch of near falls to the finish, and the place was going crazy. Hoyt, kicked out of the black hole slam, and they were doing all sorts of wackiness. And finally, he did this Van Terminator from across the ring, which is not quite as impressive when you're 7 feet tall, but it's still impressive that he did it. And may have injured Abyss's forearm, but then Abyss pretty much hit the black hole slam as Hoyt was coming off the ropes shortly thereafter and got the pin. So it was a good match, like I said, saved by the Lance Hoyt fan club.
I could talk for about 6 hours on this match alone. Where to begin? When Abyss and Mitchell started their promo, very early on, Mitchell called Abyss 7 feet tall, and Brent Kremen began to correct him, saying, hey, he's only 6, at which point I had to yell at Brent to shut up so I could listen to Jim Mitchell promo. And I'm glad I did because it was Jim Mitchell and he's awesome. So we got that out of the way.
I remember you told him to shut up. I couldn't remember what it was for, though.
That was it. I just wanted to hear Jim Mitchell.
Okay.
I know he's not really 7 feet tall. I don't need Brent Kremen to tell me. I find it impossible to call him just Brent. I have to say Brent Kremen.
Okay.
Anyway. So Abyss and Mitchell came out and they were in the ring and they're playing his Puff Daddy ripoff music. And then Lance Hoyt came out dressed like Johnny Jeter, only 1.5 feet taller. And then, much to my surprise, he proceeded to wrestle like Johnny Jeter. He was, as you say, flying around, springing off the ropes, doing a crappy kip-up. And, yeah, for a while there, it was the world's largest X Division match. They were doing high spots, nothing but high spots. It settled down, and it was, the match was good. Wasn't anything special. And, yes, the crowd was the highlight of this, really in the entire show. They were hot all night long for everything. But for this one in particular, as we know, Lance Hoyt is over because his drinking buddies like to chant his name, and then people catch on because his name is funny, so they chant Hoyt, Hoyt, Hoyt.
Yeah, get in close to that phone, by the way.
Getting close to the phone. Okay, this is important for this one. Because the other thing the fans like to do is they like to sing the Abyss song. So I mentioned this in the message board, and someone asked what the Abyss song is. Well, the Abyss song consists of 2 notes and 3 words, and it is done like so. Go! Go Abyss, go Abyss. Repeat, repeat, repeat. And it's best if you stand up and wave your arms back and forth.
God, I wish you were in the studio for that.
I'll do it again when you get.
You may have to do it tomorrow.
I will sing the Abyss song forever. And this night it was great because first they started drowning each other out with the go Abyss, Hoyt, 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 Hoyt. And then at the end, the Hoyt fans started working their chant into the rhythm of the Abyss song. So it was go Abyss, Hoyt, go Abyss, Hoyt. It was awesome. And then these big goofs kept beating each other up for a while, and Abyss finally won. So that made the show for me.
I would like to add that during the Abyss song, there was a black man in a white hood in the front row that was swaying back and forth like he was on Soul Train, and it was beautiful.
Yeah. That was my night. I could have got left at that point and got my money's worth.
There you go.
So thank you, Orlando. You people rock.
Oh yeah. So it was a pretty good match. Then we had BG James and Ron Killings and Conan having this big meeting backstage. 3 Live Crew. Basically, Conan did not trust BG, and Ron Killings was willing to give him a chance, but he basically said, "Do the right thing tonight," because the match was Ron Killings and Conan versus Kip James and Monty Brown, with BG James the referee, and the match itself was a backdrop for an angle, which was whether or not BG was going to be a fair ref, and he was a fair ref, although there were a few points in the match where he was slow coming in for counts, but I think it was because BG James was actually slow going for counts, and had nothing to do with the story of the match.
Yeah, I think he's just a crappy ref.
Yeah, I think he's just a terrible referee. But, so anyway, the finish came when, Kip James, who was the former Bill E. Gunn, was going to use a chair, and BG grabbed it away from him, laced into him with these punches, and Billy Gunn did the one thing he can do well, which is do these giant exaggerated bumps, which he did. And then he ran right into I guess it was a chair shot or something or other from Conan.
Conan whacked him with a chair.
Yeah, Conan whacked him with a chair.
Conan whacked him with a chair in full view of BG James, and he thought he'd been busted. And the expression on his face, he thought he was going to get DQ'd. But BG weighed him down to make the cover.
That's right. BG was telling him, make the cover, and so he did, and he got the pin, and Conan was so happy that he wept. And so they're back together again for the next 2 months until they get TV, at which point they will break up violently.
Yeah. Yeah, this is good. It was the same match we've seen before, and I did like. There was one point because Kip and Monty got the heat on Monty. That's Monty. They should have been the 2 Montys, Monty Brown and Monty Sopp.
That's a hell of an idea, Vince.
This is what happens when you ask me to do a live update. Monty Brown.
I should have taped you in advance.
Yeah, well, we are. Okay. Moving on. Kip James and Monty Sopp got the heat on. Oh, fuck me. Kip James and Monty Brown got the heat.
Why don't you just call him Billy Gunn and make life easier for everybody?
The bad guys got the heat on Truth because they don't want to work with Conan. Thank you. That's what I was trying to say. It took me 400 minutes. I'm sober right now. So eventually...
May not be tomorrow night.
Conan got the hot tag, and Bill E. Gunn got in the ring, and Mike Tenay screamed, these are the 2 men we wanted to see this whole match. And I said, no, it's not. But, it was okay. And Conan got to throw a shoe. And, we've already killed this enough. Let's move on to the next thing.
I'm just glad that was your sole memory of the match was Mike Tenay's comment and your answer.
Yeah.
But, yeah, let's just
it's all about entertaining myself.
That's good. Well, let's move on to Christopher Daniels versus Austin Aries for the X title. Austin was the supposed winner of the fan voting. As it turns out, there was legit fan voting, but they'd only called one man, who was Austin Aries. So it's a damn good thing that he got 50% of the vote, because otherwise I don't know what they would have done. But he ended up winning, and he came out for this match, and he's been taking his vitamins. He has put on approximately 15 pounds of muscle in about a month, which is very impressive for a natural athlete, of course. But he's got good genetics. And ironically has a body much like Jamie Noble. So anyway, he came out and had the match here with Chris Daniels, and they did their usual thing, which was have a good match. And, yeah, it was nothing particularly memorable or anything like that, but Austin Aries worked very hard, Daniels worked very hard. I'm pretty sure Aries will end up getting a job because of this. And it ended up with Daniels... God, what the hell happened? Aries went for his brainbuster, and Daniels turned it into the Angel's Wings and got the pin. So, very good X Division match.
It was good. They put over... I'm doing Minesweeper while I do this report. This is why it sucks so hard.
Can't you eat or something where it doesn't take you...
Maybe I should be eating. Maybe I'd be able to concentrate better if I had more food. Austin Aries, they put him over strong the whole night.
And couldn't you play a better game than Minesweeper?
What do you want me to... I thought I'd be able to do Minesweeper and concentrate, but clearly I was wrong. Should I do Solitaire instead?
No, how about you just do the damn report?
Okay, I just turned the monitor off. I'm not doing the damn report. They put Austin Aries over strong. They talked about his 450. They talked about his brainbuster. They talked about his wins in ROH. So clearly they're bringing him back, and probably bringing him back to work with Daniels more. Well, except we'll move on. Since Daniels is fighting Joe. So
Then we had the Sean Waltman versus Jerry Lynn match, which was 15 years in the making or whatever. And they actually proved this by showing clips from about 15 years ago of Jerry Lynn and Sean Waltman doing their deal. But anyway, it was... when I was watching it, I just thought, we just saw Chris Daniels and Austin Aries, which is state-of-the-art. And now I'm watching Sean Waltman versus Jerry Lynn doing a match that would have been state-of-the-art in 1996. And that's not really to take anything away from the match, because for a state-of-the-art 1996 match, it was very good. But there is a huge difference between this sort of match and the sort of match that we'd seen earlier, and would see in a moment with the Samoa Joe match. But it was still very good. It was very basic early, and then they started doing a lot of terrifying, actually, high spots. And it finished with Jerry Lynn actually hitting a victory roll for the victory. So that was that. And then afterwards, Sean Waltman did pretty much the greatest performance of his career, as he held up Jerry Lynn's hand, and he was actually weeping.
Yeah.
He was selling this so much that he was weeping. And then he went to hug him and instead gave him a shoulder breaker because he'd been working over Lynn's bad shoulder the entire month. And I should add that they showed footage of Jerry Lynn taking this terrifying move from Hoovy. I don't even know what the hell it was, but that actually
supposed to be a Hoovy driver.
Yeah,
but
supposed to be
not done right.
A cradle Hoovy driver maybe that blew out his shoulder. And so that was the story of the match. But anyway, he worked on his shoulder afterwards and beat him up. And Tenay was appalled and gave the angry Tenay face. And I guess they will continue this feud, but very good match.
Yeah, that was the highlight of the. I keep saying highlight. That was the best part. Was the angle at the end, was because Waltman had me worked entirely. He was crying. I think it probably was sincere tears of how happy he was for Jarrett to be back after being out for a year, and then he just went with the angle and dropped him on his shoulder and went to town with the chair.
Yeah.
The scariest part of this was where they teased a suplex from the apron to the floor, and then suddenly they delivered a suplex from the apron to the floor.
That's right. X-Pac took a back vertical suplex, just a regular vertical suplex, off the apron to the floor.
And Lynn went down with him.
Yeah.
He didn't throw him down and leave him take the bump. Lynn went down and they both splatted on the floor hard.
And
almost
I thought,
on top of a camera guy.
I thought it was going to be a life of pain pills and wheelchairs for young Sean Waltman, because that was absolutely, totally insane. But it was a good match. It was a good match.
Yeah.
Then we had America's Most Wanted and the Naturals teaming up versus Team Canada, which it was virtually a forgettable match until about the last, probably about 3 minutes when they started doing all the near falls and everything at the end. And the storyline was America's Most Wanted, the Naturals hate each other, but they teamed up to face Team Canada because everybody hates Team Canada, especially A1, who totally sucks. And the basic finish was the Naturals and America's Most Wanted bunked into each other, and then Bobby Roode rolled up, I think, the blonde-haired Natural to get the pin. And then afterwards, Naturals and AMW had this big, I guess, brawl or whatever to set up a tag team match, which of course makes no sense because Team Canada won the match and therefore should get the title shot. But
pinning the champions, mind you.
That's right. So anyway, like I said, pretty forgettable, but good last couple of minutes.
I think my job tonight is to remember the stupid stuff people did. Eric Young, who, as we know, is a hero after seeing him on the indie show up here.
I'd forgotten this.
At one point, he was positioned standing on the middle rope outside the ring, and whichever Natural was working hit him with an enziguri, and Eric Young leapt in the air and took a flat belly bump on the ground.
Yes, a flare flop, basically.
Yeah, it was a flare flop from the middle rope to the floor.
It was incredibly stupid.
Yeah, for a match that no one's going to remember in a week.
I should note that one of the main reasons for all the stupidity on this show was Bob Carter, the main money man behind Panda, the owner actually, and the main money man behind TNA was Backstage. So I think a lot of the guys felt we better bust our ass tonight, and they did.
Okay, that man must never be allowed into the building
X-Pac nearly literally busted his ass.
Yeah. So he splat on the floor hard. The good news was they used it for the hot tag because while the Natural was crawling over to his corner to make the tag, the other Canadians ran over to Eric Young's limp body and tried to carry it back to their corner so they can make a tag.
That's right, yeah.
That was a great spot. But, yeah.
And the good news is the dark-haired Natural is alive following the FTW show with Matt Farmer and Chris Del Sol, so you can all rest easier now. Samoa Joe faced AJ Styles in the finals of the X Cup tournament, and this was a hell of a match. And, in fact, it was on its way to being one of the best matches of the entire year when they did a ref bump about 12 minutes in, and it was sort of all downhill from there. Chris Daniels was there doing commentary, And they were just having the most incredible match, like I said. Tons of great spots. AJ Styles was taking just the world's stupidest bumps.
Killed.
Yeah, I mean, he was. The great thing about AJ Styles is he sells so well. He takes such great bumps, and when he makes a comeback, it's totally spectacular. And Joe is great because he's a huge fat guy that knows how to work as a huge fat guy. And no matter what his body looks like, when he's beating on you, you totally believe that this man could kill you.
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact that he knows how to sell, when to sell, and they're just both awesome. But anyway, the ref took a bump, and then Daniels hit the ring and tried to attack both guys. In the melee, Joe ended up hitting his muscle buster and then put on the rear naked choke, and the ref woke up, and AJ actually tapped out. So they were making a big deal out of that. So Joe is going to get a title shot against Chris Daniels in the next pay-per-view, and unless they've totally lost their minds, he's going to win the title, and all is great with the world.
Yeah, the interference, as you mentioned, kind of tainted this match, and plus it makes no sense because Daniels ran in when the ref went down, and he attacked AJ, and then he threatened to attack Joe, but Joe fought him off. But Joe went on to win, so now there's heat between AJ and Daniels, except that's not the match that's happening.
Yes.
So I don't know what the point of that was. So
well, they may actually, I'm sure they'll probably do something that involves all three guys. Because
make it a three-way.
Yeah, but well, it doesn't. It's kind of a cheap way to do it because you promised a winner that would get the shot, but at the same time, you sort of can't do a deal where AJ Styles is left out in the cold, which is how this would have ended up. So they may end up doing a three-way or something like that, or they could just bring back the damn what do they call it, Ultimate X?
Ooh.
It's been 2 months. It's about time they did it. Except
that's right. Yeah.
The thought of Joe scaling cables is not necessarily something
he would
need. He would
There's
need your favorite, a jetpack.
He would need a jetpack.
Yeah. So, it was a good match, though.
I now demand they book this match.
I said that because I knew how much you love jetpacks.
Well, I wish I had a jetpack. That's all I have to say.
Someday we'll have you tell the story about your childhood wish for a jetpack. But for now, Raven and Sabu versus Rhino and Jeff Jarrett, which... Should I just let you tell this match? Because I was filled with such hatred for this match. Mostly because of Jeff Jarrett. He's like...
Bryan?
He's the black hole of the company. He's this giant... He's considered the biggest thing there is, and he just sucks all the heat and light out of the arena, and nothing can escape, and I just hated it.
Bryan was very quiet tonight, to the point where I thought something was horribly wrong. And I asked him at one point if he was okay, and he said yes.
Actually, I didn't even say yes. I just nodded.
You kind of grunted.
No, I'm sorry.
But... yeah, he sat there the whole time typing and playing with a rubber band and just watching, and I was very concerned. And then the instant Jeff Jarrett appeared on the screen, Bryan began to swear and stomp around. He leapt to his feet and began to throw things at the television. Fortunately, they were light, small things like the rubber band and the case to a videotape. And, he got a lot out of his system there. And it was... his mood did not really improve.
I felt better, but I didn't get any better when the match went on because... crowd brawling. Sabu looked no younger than 55. And I would note that I hereby rescind my vote for Sabu into the Hall of Fame after seeing this match. And, nobody did anything great. Rhino looked jacked up, but that was the only exceptional thing out of Rhino. And it was just basically a garbage match. They didn't say what the rules were, but the rules were apparently that there were no rules because everybody was using every sort of gimmick that there was.
Chairs and tables and a pizza cutter and a garbage can.
I think I've actually figured out the rules for TNA, though. The rules for each match are decided by who is in the match. So if you're Shocker, you will be DQ'd for using a chair. If you're Sabu, a chair is considered a hold. And that's how the whole thing works.
Pretty much.
So yeah, that was the sort of match, and every gimmick came into play. And then finally, the gimmick I should mention was, as much as I hated everything about this, Jeff Jarrett and Raven had a deal where if Jarrett pinned Raven, he got a title shot. And if Raven pinned Jarrett, he didn't get a title shot for a year. So right there, you knew Jarrett wasn't getting pinned. And it ended up with Rhino, of all people, goring Raven through a table and stealing Jeff Jarrett's pin. The temerity. And, of course, Jeff Jarrett was irate, and today's like, what's going to happen as they went off the air? And I don't care. So, yeah.
I do love the fact that the booking, mind you, is that the company is so incompetent, they cannot consider what would happen if Rhino had pinned Raven.
Yes, they hadn't even considered any of the other options in this scenario. But, yeah.
Yeah, there was interference by Jim Mitchell and Abyss, and Jeff Hardy showed up. And,
that was another angle. They said Jeff Hardy was booked. This was classic. They said Jeff Hardy's booked, and if he no-shows, he'll be fired. And I thought, I wonder if that's a shoot. But he was there.
He was there, and he came out and whacked Abyss with a chair and hit Raven with a swan, or Jarrett with the swanton. And I just had a refreshing drink of Coca-Cola. And yeah, it was a big cluster garbage. By itself, it wasn't an awful match or anything, but everything you said about Jarrett is so true. It's so monumentally stupid to have him be the forefront of this company, and everyone knows it.
And it's so monumentally pathetic.
Yeah, that too.
It's not even the stupid thing that bothers me, because I see stupid stuff on WWE every week. But it's so pathetic to see this guy out there. He really does think that this title means something, and that he means something. And it's so obvious from watching the crowd. I mean, seriously, he came out and nobody cared. They did a spot at the end where I think Raven hit him with a DDT, or he did something or whatever, and there was a big kick out, which they'd been building for the entire match, and nobody cared. And I thought, I hope Bob Carter's watching. And he was. So hopefully that'll make a difference in the next couple of weeks, months of TNA.
We can hope so. I find it hard to imagine at this point. I think we're kind of stuck with him, and what's probably going to happen is that Jarrett will win the belt back from Raven on the first TNA or first Spike TV show, and then hopefully lose it to Samoa Joe very quickly thereafter.
I would be all for that, but I don't see Jeff Jarrett losing to Samoa Joe anytime soon, sadly. Yeah. But anyway, that's it for the TNA pay-per-view report. Believe it or not, Vince, we talked for 28 minutes and 47 seconds. And, yeah, that's it. But tomorrow night, we will be back with a Bryan and Vinny show that I'm very much looking forward to, because we will be talking about Raw. We will be talking about Hogan Knows Best, which I hope you have not watched yet.
I have not. I have heard some reports.
Yes, the one with Brian Knobbs. And, not to mention, the final Diva Search commentary, which we will have to do. Perhaps drinking, perhaps not. I haven't decided, because it's gone off the cliff, and I don't see a reason to waste good alcohol on it.
Yeah.
And finally, of course, we will have Brent Kremen as a special guest on the show. The first ever Vince guest on the Bryan and Vince show.
God.
Yeah, check that out.
I better get prepared.
Please do. Write down some questions for young Brent.
Really good questions.
Including questions about ham.
I'll ask him the question I asked tonight about the turkey bacon.
That's right. And we had another question we were going to ask him. What was it?
I don't know.
We'll try and remember. And then, of course, tomorrow, tune in to Figure 4 Daily, where we will have Clancy Gilpatrick back talking about Ring of Honor and all that sort of thing. And actually, I should ask you about this, but I'll do it on a different day because we're totally out of time. But thank you very much for listening. And
why don't you tease them with the what you're going to ask me? Because I'm curious.
Well, you follow all the Ring of Honor, and I was just going to ask you what you thought of CM Punk losing the belt to...
Oh, dude, I haven't watched Ring of Honor this year.
Well, fine.
That's Clancy. Clancy's the man. I suck.
All right. Well, that was a great way to end the show here. But, yeah, thank you very much for listening, and we will talk to you tomorrow night.
Bye.
How's it going, everybody? Brian Alvarez here for the TNA pay-per-view report. We will have young Vincent up here on the line in about 5 minutes. The reason he's not on the line right now is because he missed the first hour of the pay-per-view. That's right. As most of you are probably aware, this was the first day, I guess, of football season. I'm not actually sure when the season begins. But young Vincent had so many football games to watch today that he was unable to arrive at Brent Kremen's house until 9 o'clock p.m. So we're going to go over the first hour or so of the pay-per-view. I'll cover that by myself. Then we'll get him on the line. And I've got a couple of questions, some pressing questions I've got to ask him about the importance of football season. Because apparently it's a very important issue in his life, since I presume he got up at 6 o'clock a.m. and didn't stop watching football until 8:45 p.m. So I'm going to ask him a little bit about that. So we'll get into the pay-per-view report first, and then we'll bring him up. And I'd like to say beforehand that I often go on the board or on the front page of the site, and I post news flashes about the board and about the chat. And if you're listening to this and you've not registered for the board yet, please do so. There are a lot of great discussions on there. There's a lot of breaking news on there. All sorts of things happen on the board. It's a very exciting place. And also, if you're registered for the board, you can participate in the chat. And we usually, in fact, we always have chats during live editions of Wrestling Observer Live. And I suppose you can really chat whenever you want if you want to gather up your friends and head up there during Raw or something like that. But during Wrestling Observer Live this past evening, we had a very interesting chat that I wish all of you would have been a part of. Especially those of you that are unaware, as I was, that AJ Styles is a bad worker. I never knew this until the chat this evening, but that was the big topic of conversation, and it was a hell of a little conversation. Probably the greatest chat in the history of Figure 4 Online, and we've actually got a transcript of it up on the bulletin board in the wrestling section. So if you're not registered for the board, please register, and if you are registered, head up right now and check it out because it is really something to see. But anyway, let's get on to the TNA pay-per-view report. I was actually watching the in-demand channel before I headed over to Brent's house. I was going to watch the free show. Actually, this was prior to Observer Live, since I guess I could have watched it live on the West Coast. We usually watch the replay, but I turned on the preview channel for the free preview show, and I was alerted that in order to see the free preview, I had to order the pay-per-view. So therefore, I wasn't able to see the free preview, and I was amused at the beginning of the show when Mike Tenay was talking about the free preview, about things that I was supposed to be able to see for free, but I could not. So luckily, they had some footage of what took place on the pre-show, and it was absolutely nothing of any value whatsoever. There was a confrontation between Jeff Jarrett and Monty Brown, both of whom want a title shot. And I have not seen Jeff Jarrett in a long time because I don't watch the No TV that airs on the internet. But God, did I ever not miss him during that period. And when I saw him on the show, I was like, my God, this better be a hell of a pay-per-view because I'm already annoyed. It opened up with the Diamonds in the Rough facing 3 Live Crew. And this was another interesting thing because, like I said, I don't watch the TV on the internet. And Mike Tenay is going on and on about the Diamonds in the Rough and how Simon Diamond had turned around the careers of Elix Skipper and David Young, and I thought, well, you're half right. He has not turned around the career of David Young. He has turned around the career of primetime Elix Skipper, but he's turned it in a 360 because, actually 180, because primetime Elix Skipper has gone from losing or winning a bunch of matches to losing every single match he's in. And the Diamonds in the Rough, I believe, debuted 3 pay-per-views ago, and to this day they have not won one match. So listening to Tony talk about how their careers had turned around was great stuff. But they ended up facing 3 Live Crew, and if you don't know what happened yet, you have not been listening very closely. They lost. David Young actually Simon Diamond did the job. 3 Live Crew won. They were all happy, hugging, etc. So basically they're dragging out the breakup of 3 Live Crew until the TV starts, at which point they can start advancing angles. And I would like to point out before I go any further that last month in the newsletter, I was talking about how I was all for TNA not getting TV. Because I sort of argued that when they had TV, they did a lot of cutesy booking and a lot of stuff that ended up really annoying me because they overthought things and there was too much Jeff Jarrett and he was the centerpiece of all these angles. And without TV, and without the ability to forward angles because they're waiting for the TV to do all that, it's very basic booking. 2 men have a match, 1 man wins, the man that wins sort of goes up the ladder, and if he wins enough, he gets a shot at the title. Very old school booking, and I was such a fan of it when I was finished watching the last show that I half-jokingly said, no TV. It's much better to book this way, and I'm happy with this sort of booking. But then on this show, about midway through, suddenly I was thinking, we need some booking, because if I see one more match with 3 Live Crew winning a basic match and cheering together, and if I see one more match with the Diamonds in the Rough losing yet again, and if I see one more match with 4 tag teams having a match together and doing all sorts of near falls and that sort of thing, and then one team winning and it involving America's Most Wanted and Naturals and 2 other generic teams, I'm going to go nuts. So yeah, I'm thinking that we need some TV to forward some of these angles because I'm sick of seeing the same thing every single month. But with that said, some of the stuff I saw this month was not bad because it was a hell of a pay-per-view. Austin Aries versus Roderick Strong was one of those matches. A good match, probably 3 1/4 stars. They worked very hard. The fans in Orlando were very forgiving of them. Actually, forgiving is the wrong word because there was nothing to forgive. They were very open to these 2 men. I don't know if they've ever seen Roderick Strong before. Maybe they have in the TNA tapings that I don't watch. They've seen Austin Aries once, but these guys went in cold and worked their asses off and had a real good match, and Austin Aries got the pin, so it looks like they'll probably end up signing him to a deal and bringing him in as a regular because the crowd really got into this, and it was very good. Then we had Kip James and Monty Brown versus Lance Hoyt and Apollo, and let me tell you something. If you've watched a lot of TNA, you know that there's a Lance Hoyt cheering section that takes up like the first 3 rows. I don't know if they were all doing something. Maybe they were all with Vince at some sort of football party or something and didn't attend the show this evening. But his fan club was not in full effect. And seeing Lance Hoyt have to just work when his fan club is not there to cheer him on, that's something else, because this guy is so bad. And he had a very bad night, and it was not good. And you should have seen Lance Hoyt in there trying to work with Kip James, former Billy Gunn. Finish saw Monty Brown, I believe, hit the pounce on Apollo and pin him. So probably Monty Brown in line for a title shot at some point. And that's coming up, I'm sure, when they get TV. They'll start building towards that. But it looks like the main guys in the title hunt will be Jeff Jarrett, Monty Brown, and, of course, Raven, who ended up retaining on this show. But we will get into that in just a moment. The next match was Petey Williams and Chris Saban, and I believe at this point Vince showed up. So hold on one moment, and I will bring this young football-loving miscreant up. So, yeah, let's get him on the phone. He better answer after all this.
Hello.
Vince.
Yes, sir.
You ready to go?
Ready if you are.
You're not watching football or anything, are you?
I was now, but I just turned my television off.
Before we start today, I've got to ask you some questions about football.
Yes, sir.
Is today the first day of football season?
Yes, it is. The NFL season. College football started about 2 weeks ago.
And what time did you start watching football today?
About 10 after 10. I was preparing food for the first 10 minutes, but I sat down at about 10 a.m., and I watched football until about 4:30. Then I took a break because there was no football on, and then I sat down at 5:30, and I watched not quite the entire night game. I missed the last 5 minutes of it.
And so how many hours total of football did you watch today?
About 10.
You watched 10 hours of football.
Oh, yes.
All right, now I'm not a football fan, as you're well aware, but I've got to ask this question.
Mm-hmm.
How the hell can you watch 10 hours of football during the day?
I was very busy Saturday making sure I had my schedule clear.
No, you're not answering the question. How can you watch 10 hours of football during the day?
Gleefully, gladly, and enjoyably.
I was watching a 3-hour TNA pay-per-view, and until the main event came, there was a point during that show when I was like, I'm sick of wrestling. I don't want to watch any more wrestling. I've watched it for 2 straight hours now. I'd kill myself before I had to watch 10 hours of wrestling. I don't fathom how this is possible.
I can't explain it to you then. No, to be honest, not many people could. Well, actually, that's not true. Lots of guys do this, far more than watch wrestling.
Well, before we get to the TNA pay-per-view, I need you to explain to me what it is about football that you love so much.
I love the give and take. I love the chess game. I love the strategy. I love the rampant violence. I love the showmanship. I love the strategy. I love second-guessing people. There's so much to enjoy about it. I love analyzing why things didn't work. I like looking for matchups. I like trying to figure out what the coaches are going to do. There's a start off the top of my head.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I don't understand it. I just had to get that out of the way first.
Okay.
It really it hit me most when you arrived at 9 o'clock p.m. tonight. The pay-per-view started at 8 and you were an hour late, and I thought, Vince had to have gotten up at 8 o'clock in the morning and watched about 10 hours of football. And he could not tear himself away from the game to arrive to watch this TNA pay-per-view. He didn't have a VCR or something. I was wondering if he had a VCR or something, and you had to see the last hour of this game or something. You couldn't wait till after the pay-per-view to tape it or whatever. It struck me as odd.
I was watching it. That particular game, the first half, that game was the Baltimore-Indianapolis Monday night game, and it was very similar to the Mirko Krokop Fedor Emelianenko fight.
That's impossible.
No. In that, the first half of it was the greatest action-packed stalemate you ever saw. And I was on the edge of my seat, and I had to stick around to see how it was going to finish. And then it finished with the second half with one side slowly chipping the other way, and then by the end, the outcome was no longer in doubt. So I actually did leave before the game was over.
You actually left before it was over?
Yeah.
All right, because if you would have waited out this final, I guess, hour when it was totally one-sided, then I would have really totally just lost my mind.
No, in fact, I probably should have left before I did, but
that's impossible for you, though.
To leave before I did?
Yes.
Well, that's true.
So anyway, with that out of the way, I don't ever want to talk about football again. So
I won't make you.
Are you going to be on time for WWE pay-per-views, or are you going to actually drive all the way out to Craig's separately, just so you don't miss the last 5 minutes of a game?
Doubtful. I would like Craig to move, so I could, get away with that, but he's not going to, so.
I wish Craig were on the line right now, so I could have him hear you say that because of football season, you need him to move closer.
He can move back in February.
Vince, it's not even the football thing. Because it's like the argument we had about AJ Styles today in the chat. All right, if you don't like AJ Styles, great. There's no bearing on my life. And if you like Roderick Strong, if you think Roderick Strong is the best worker in the world, good for you. That's fine. If you love football, great. I'm not a big football fan. I don't ever want to watch it. I don't really ever want to talk about it. But there was something about the obsessive nature of a man who watches 10-plus hours of football on a Sunday and does nothing else that really struck me as just wrong and weird and unhealthy.
It may be all of those things.
All right. Well, as long as you admit that.
Yeah. Someone in the chat room asked me today, or they have in the past, why doesn't Bryan like real sports? Or you should ask Bryan, you should talk Bryan into watching a game with you. And I thought, why?
Yeah, why?
Why the hell do I care what he's doing?
Yeah.
I'm having fun. I was happier today than I've been in, a long time.
High school?
Probably since last Super Bowl, actually.
Jesus. So go on.
Well, yeah. So I was happy with it, and then I don't care if you think it's wrong or unhealthy.
Part of this has to do with the fact that I'm sure I've got some sort of disorder, an attention deficit disorder. I can't sit through shit.
Well, let me explain part of this.
I can't even sit through a 3-hour pay-per-view. I need to be doing something, or I need to go check my email, or I need to go eat, or I need to leave the room, or I need to make some excuse to get away from it for a second.
Okay. Let me explain part of how I do this. Most people, they get 1 or 2 games on their local cable that they watch, and that's what's available to them. Because I'm so maniacal obsessive about this, I have the NFL Sunday ticket package, which means I get to watch every game that I want to. For example, this morning there was 8. I think it was more than that. There was 10 games on at once, and I was flipping madly between all 10 of them. And then I found they have one channel where it's one picture on the screen broken up into 8 windows, and each of the window is showing a different game. And I thought, I have found nirvana. And I just sat there with my eyes and mouth hanging wide open, just taking it all in, eyes darting back and forth like a Clockwork Orange figure or something. And then I noticed a little crawler at the bottom that said, we hope you're enjoying the free preview of this channel. Call our number now and sign up to get it for the rest of the season. So these bastards are like crack dealers giving me a free hit, and now that I'm addicted, they're going to jack up the prices. So,
Vince, there's a lot of phrases that I hate and that I try to never use in my life because I think they're cliches and I think they're stupid. And one of them is, you need to get a girl. And for the first time in my life, I'm going to break my own rule, and I'm just going to say it. You have got to get a girl, dude.
That can happen in February.
Jesus Christ. What are you going to do when you actually have a girlfriend? Are you going to say, listen, we need to break up from September through February?
I've done it before.
That explains more than...
I didn't say we had to break up. I said, listen, my Sundays are taken, or at least my Sunday days. I was willing to sacrifice a Sunday night game. I said, I'm going to be watching football. If you want to come with me and watch football, that's fine. But I'm not going to go see my friends. I'm not going to go see your friends. I'm not going to go watch a movie. I'm not going to go to the park. I'm going to stay home and watch football. And actually, she was cool with that.
There have been certain people on the board that have poked fun at you and I, suggesting that perhaps we're gay lovers. This right here should prove that you could never be my lover, ever.
No.
Even if you were much less hairy, much skinnier, and had much larger breasts, it would never work.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, really.
Yeah. I'm sorry to disappoint everybody, but that's the truth. So anyway, I suppose we should talk about this pay-per-view. I already covered the first hour, don't worry, since you were busy watching It wasn't even the fucking Burger King on the field. It was normal dorks. But anyway, I'll let you start with Petey Williams versus Chris Saban.
I walked in the middle of this. Everything I saw on this pay-per-view until the main event, I don't want to repeat myself, but I'm going to as you go match by match, but everything felt like it was decent or okay or good enough, but something I had seen 500,000 times before. And this was every Chris Saban, Petey Williams encounter. They did a bunch of cool spots. They did some like lucha-esque 20-move high spots. Saban won with a future shock, I think, or the cradle shock, whatever the hell he calls it. And, yeah.
Yeah, it was a good match. It probably could have been better. I could say that about a lot of matches on the show, with one glaring exception, that being the main event. But I guess the big news was after Chris Saban won, Matt Bentley returned.
Matt Bentley.
Yes, the former Michael Shane returned with a super kick and whacked Chris Saban in the jaw, cut a promo saying he was back. He had the opportunity to go up north. He didn't mention the fact they didn't want him. He kind of just sort of left that part out, and then, of course, gave the super kick to Petey Williams as well. So apparently they will be doing an Ultimate X match on the next show with Petey Williams, Chris Saban, and Matt Bentley. So at least it'll be a decent match, and they've sort of held it off for enough pay-per-views. It'll be something special again. But that's the next big pay-per-view coming up in whatever next month is, October.
Yeah.
The annual. It's such an annual event, I forgot the name.
Bound for Glory.
Bound for Glory, the TNA version of WrestleMania. So that's coming up next month. Then we had...
Yeah, he came out and announced that everyone was talking about him going up north, and that thought had never once occurred to me, not even for a second. I thought he'll be back in TNA whenever they use him, and that'll be that. He will never be in the WWE.
I think upwards of 5 people thought about it, and several hundred read about it, and approximately 0 cared.
There you go.
But it's all about promotion. Then we had Abyss versus Sabu, which was... At least the one thing I'll say about this pay-per-view is, finally, before a match, they explained why all this stuff was going to be legal in a specific match.
Yes.
They had Jim Mitchell come out and say that he was going to do this under Sabu's terms, which was no DQ, no holds barred, that sort of thing, instead of just having a Sabu match and having everything legal in what should not be, in a match where it shouldn't be legal. So anyway, they came out and had a crazy match, used all sorts of plunder, that sort of thing.
They beat the hell out of each other.
Oh yeah, they hit each other very, very hard.
Particularly Sabu.
Sabu is either one of the best workers in the world in terms of selling, or his entire body is constantly racked with pain. And I would actually think it's the second option there. And they did all sorts of things, and there were 8-year-old children in the front row chanting for thumbtacks. So of course they brought out the thumbtacks, and men have taken bumps on thumbtacks before. Usually they're wearing, or often they're wearing shirts or whatever. Sabu was not wearing a shirt, and not only did he take a bump onto these thumbtacks, but Abyss gave him a black hole slam with fury. He drove this man into these thumbtacks and into the mat, and it was so grotesque. And there were tacks all over Sabu's back, which is gross enough without thumbtacks in it. And there were thumbtacks all over Abyss's hand, and it was a brutal, grotesque spectacle. And that's really the best thing I can say about the entire match, but yes, Abyss won.
Yeah, Sabu rolled over, and he was selling, and at the same time trying to show off the tacks in his back, and basically he looked like a dinosaur.
Sabu?
Yeah.
Yeah, extinct.
Well, that too,
65 million years old.
There you go.
It was quite the spectacle. Then we had Bobby Roode versus Jeff Hardy. I expected this to be a disaster, and it must not have been that much of a disaster because I can barely remember a thing about it. It was a basic... Think like a Raw top-of-the-hour match. Nothing really to it. Your basic psychology. Jeff Hardy ran wild. Bobby Roode beat on him. Jeff Hardy made a comeback. And they had the usual interference from a member of Team Canada, which still is not getting the right kind of heat. It's overplayed.
That team needs to be broken up immediately.
They need to be broken up or something. Every Team Canada match has to have somebody interfering with the flag.
The damn hockey stick.
Yeah, the hockey stick or the flag or whatever. It started with Scott D'Amore, and they finally got rid of him mercifully, and then all they did was replace him with someone else to hit people with the stick. And Bobby Roode ended up getting the pin after Jeff Jarrett broke the hockey stick over Jeff Hardy's back, so apparently that will be an upcoming feud, perhaps at the next pay-per-view. God only knows why they would book that for the WrestleMania, but at least Jeff Jarrett won't be in the main event if that's the case. But, yeah, pretty much a nothing match.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vince. Then we had the Naturals versus Team Canada versus America's Most Wanted versus Alex Shelley and supposedly Sean Waltman. Sean Waltman was one half of the Chris Candido Cup, I guess, tournament winners, and he no-showed. So apparently WWE called. He had not been working with a contract. It was either WWE or TNA. I guess the deal was if WWE offered him a deal, he would go there. If they did not, he would stay with TNA. And apparently they did because he no-showed. The announcers buried him. They were talking about how this was for the Chris Candido Memorial Cup, and Chris Candido's family was in the front row, and this guy had the temerity to no-show, which, I don't know.
It got to the point where they were burying him so strongly, I was certain he was going to run in at the end.
Well, to me, it was like, okay, he no-showed, but you didn't have him under contract. He had the right to not be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it may have been sort of a low thing to do, but you don't need to bring in a dead guy to try and talk about what a low person this is. This had nothing to do with Chris Candido.
No.
This had something to do with he got a better offer, and he took it. And I wasn't down with that, but... And even worse, they had Chris Candido's brother in the front row, and so he ended up being the tag team partner for Alex Shelley because Sean Waltman no-showed. And basically, if you didn't watch the TV, which I didn't, they did like this long tournament for the Chris Candido Memorial Cup, and it spanned several shows. And Alex Shelley won with Waltman. Waltman, of course, was not here, so they replaced him with Chris Candido's brother. And after all that, Chris Candido's brother got 3 moves and was pinned. And then they walked to the back, and I thought, wow, what a nice thing to do in the guy's memory. It seemed so, like, I don't know. What was the point?
Yeah, that's the best way to put it. It wasn't, it was just there.
And then we had the match, which was the same match we've seen about 75 times now.
Yeah, the only guy different in that match was Alex Shelley, and of course he was the first one gone.
Yep.
Then AMW was brawling with the Naturals, which we've seen 1,000 times before. Then they were brawling with Team Canada, which we've seen 1,000 times before. And then AMW got eliminated. I don't even remember how.
I don't care. All I know is the only thing about this match that was worth a shit was Eric Young.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus, Vince. You're more on your game than you were last Monday, but you're still a little slow here tonight. Yeah.
I didn't know he was going to refer to some spot or something, but...
No, yeah, Eric Young, come on. He saved the whole match, dude.
He was awesome. Once it got down to the Naturals and Team Canada and settled into a regular tag match, it was actually not half bad. They were setting the Naturals up for... Well, Young went up top after he... I'm screwing this whole story up. Eric Young shoved Jimmy Hart down earlier. So then, at the end, when Eric Young went up top, Jimmy Hart came up and shoved him off, and he nutted himself in the top rope and did this awesome sell job.
Eric Young did the best selling of a nut shot I've ever seen in my life, and also the best selling of an Enziguri, I believe it was. There was some spot in the middle of the match. Maybe it was a super kick or something. But it was a super kick. That's right.
He sat up and then just keeled over.
It was so awesome. So yes, they need to create a NWA Championship of the Universe and just honorarily give it to Eric Young because he's that great.
Yeah.
Then we had Raven versus Rhino in a Raven Rules match. That's what they said, so that they could use all the plunder. And use the plunder they did. And the only thing I remember off the top of my head out of this match, and this is a lesson to all of you indie wrestlers out there, if you're going to use a stapler, like a regular desk stapler or one of those power staplers that they were using here, if you're going to really staple your head, I don't know if Raven did or not, but they put it up to his head, they pulled the trigger, Raven writhed on the ground, and nobody bought it. There were actually boos. So what I've got to say is if you're actually going to use the stapler, I don't recommend this, by the way. If you can fake it, fake it. But if there's some part of you that's, I guess you have some sort of love for pain or something, and you feel the desire to actually use a stapler to your head in a wrestling match, at the very least staple a $1 bill to your head so the people at least know that you really did it. Because if Raven went in that ring last night and really got stapled twice in the head and everybody thought it was fake, then he is the dumbest man I've ever seen in the wrestling business. So I just thought I would say that. And it was a decent match. They hit each other with all sorts of stuff. Rhino finally... What was that?
It was every hardcore match from Raw in 99 and 2000.
Yeah.
It just hits us a bunch of stuff over and over again. In fact, at one point, as I was thinking to myself, I've seen all this before. They brought a shopping cart into the ring and started doing spots with that. And it occurred to me, these guys once had a hardcore match on pay-per-view that used a shopping cart a lot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, wasn't bad, but it was more of the same.
Jeff Jarrett ran in for the finish, and Raven actually ended up giving him and Rhino a DDT, and pinning Rhino as Jarrett was laid out. So they put him over very, very strong, which indicates to me that he's probably losing the belt on the first pay-per-view after they've got TV, and unfortunately it will probably be to Jeff Jarrett. So, yeah, there you go. And then, you might have noticed that since they did that match at the semi-main event position, that means they left Christopher Daniels, AJ Styles, and Samoa Joe for the X Division title in the main event, and it was a wonderful thing to do, and it was a wonderful match. The only, I always say that I love the pre-match sort of deal that Jeremy Borash does where he comes out and he introduces the title and reads everybody's name and they do the ceremony and everything. I love that. But in this match, I hated it because it was already 9:31. I didn't need to see Jeremy Borash's face out there mugging for the camera and reading this stupid thing. I just wanted to see the damn match. And unfortunately, it did not start till about 9:33. The good news is they went a long time. Like, I think they went to about 9:55 before they finally finished the match. And they worked their asses off.
They worked their asses off. They worked your ass off, my ass off. Several people listening now have no asses because they were worked off last night. It
was a phenomenal, phenomenal match, which was shocking because AJ Styles can't work. That was the most amazing thing about it as I was watching. I thought, how can a man who can't work have such an awesome match? But he had those other two guys in there with him. And they pulled out all the stops, all these crazy dives. The funny thing was, for about the first 5 minutes, there were these dueling chants of "Let's go AJ" and "Fallen Angel," and nobody was chanting for Samoa Joe, and I was so sad. And then about 10 minutes in, he just started beating everybody's ass, and all of a sudden, everybody was behind Samoa Joe. And I thought, this is beautiful. And really, the only downside of this match, if I can even think of one, is the fans were so into the first 10 minutes that they actually wore themselves out. And so there probably could have been a lot better heat for the last 5 minutes of the match. But it was missing some heat because the people had sort of killed themselves. So, anyway, it was a great match. They did all sorts of spots, like I said. And then the finish saw, I guess, Samoa Joe go for a charge. He ended up outside and in the ring. Chris Daniels went for the angel wings, but AJ backdropped him out and bridged and ended up on top and got the pin. And they didn't kill each other on the finish. It was a very simple, basic counter to a move finish, and it was good. Probably 4.5 stars. Great match.
Yeah, it was awesome. On the very short list of greatest three-way matches ever, considering that not that long ago the best candidate for that was Stevie Richards and Sandman and Terry Funk.
Oh, Jesus.
That is now ancient history. But, the crowd gave him the big standing ovation at the end. I was actually expecting them to do a big ROH-style handshake and respect deal, but they didn't. Everyone just kind of glared at each other, which leads me to think they're going to do a rematch next month, which I am A-okay with.
Yeah, maybe a rematch. I'm not sure what they're going to do. They didn't really make it clear. They did have Samoa Joe out there looking very, very irate, so I suspect he can always use the excuse that you won, but you didn't pin me, so maybe they can do AJ versus Samoa Joe again, which would be a rematch since they did that last month, right? And then
it was great then too.
Yeah, throw Daniels in or whatever. Maybe a 6-way Ultimate X or something crazy. But
no. You want Joe and Ultimate X?
Hey, I bet Joe could do some stuff.
No, that's probably true. Actually.
Although the thought of him trying to scale the cables is not a pretty sight.
That's the part I was getting at.
Yeah. So anyway, overall, this was one of those shows where the main event saved the show.
Utterly saved the show.
Yeah. In fact, the main event saved about the next 5 shows. So I will give them 4 bad shows after this main event because this was so great. But excellent main event. And you also missed a very good match with Austin Aries. So sucks to be you, dude.
Was it Austin Aries, Roderick Strong?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there you go. I caught all the crap in the middle and missed the good stuff.
Hey, Petey Williams and Chris Saban was good as well. So I think there were 1 excellent match, 2 very good matches, and then some lackluster stuff, and nothing totally atrocious. There was no women's match from Raw, so you had that.
Well, there you go.
And that's pretty much it. Any final thoughts, Vince?
No, it's a one-match show, so if you're a big fan of any of those 3 guys, you worth getting the replay. Really, it's worth getting the replay action no matter what, because that match was great.
And Craig, if you're listening, I hope you're sad now that you didn't get this show. We watched it with Brent.
Brent Kremen.
Yeah, Brent Kremen. He would have loved to have come over. And thanks for the cookies, by the way. I just wanted to throw that in. I've eaten them all.
They were good cookies.
So sucks to be you.
Craig's beautiful wife, Michelle, made cookies for everyone.
Oh, hell yeah, she did.
It was awesome.
So anyway, that's pretty much it for today, kids. We'll be back tomorrow after Raw and Ultimate Fighter, one of the final slow Monday nights, if you can believe that. They will soon be packed, Vince. Be prepared for the beginning of October. You're going to need to be here at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon to get prepared.
And be there until 4 a.m.
We have the 3-hour Raw, the Ultimate Fighter, and the Ultimate Fight Night, and everything else. So it's going to be a hell of a night, so be prepared.
Oh, that's going to suck.
Hopefully there's no football that day.
Dude, Monday Night Football?
Oh, Jesus.
We'll see what the game is.
You better DVR it, dude.
I have a VCR.
You got fans here.
All right.
So anyway, we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. We did a poll on the site. People seem to like it, except for the guy that said it sucked, but he already went on the board and said he pushed the wrong button, so give him the benefit of the doubt. But there was one person that said, let me find the poll. Fuck it, who cares? You can all go look at the poll yourself. But most people thought it was an excellent show, and it was. Daniel Pewter should have been on this show and made it even better. But, yeah, opened up with a lot of good video packages. A lot of deals introducing different people, introducing the X Division, that sort of thing. They were all great. It's good stuff. First match was AJ and Roderick Strong, which was a good opener. This was the second time they tried this match, since the first match they did had a fucked up finish, so they had to redo it. But it was good. You could tell they were rushing and they were feeling under a lot of pressure since the first one screwed up. But nothing went horribly wrong here. Styles at the Styles Clash got the pin, and this was probably about the best opening match for the TNA restart that you could possibly have.
Yeah, it was very fast-paced, very, frankly, choreographed. That's not a bad thing because it was a totally different product than what you would get on Raw, which is, the goal. It was exciting and fast-paced, and AJ hit a big dive, eventually hit the Styles Clash for the pin, and, yeah, it was good.
Then we had Shane Douglas interviewing Monty Brown, who cut one of his wacky Monty Brown promos that only he can cut, and it was a little too weird for me, but he's got a personality, so what can you do? And then he beat a generic white man who we later learned was Lex Lovett, and Lex did a great job doing the job in 1 minute, and that was that.
Monty was all over the show in the commercials and the show opening package, so it's clear that things are looking bright for him.
Yeah, they got plans for Monty.
They have plans for Monty.
Big plans. Then we had Petey Williams, Chris Saban, and Alex Shelley in a match that actually went through commercial. And I think the match was only 10 minutes total, which was actually pretty damn long. They had quite the wacky little three-way match, highlighted by the first ever non-Galavision nudo in North American wrestling history, which was good stuff.
Alex Shelley is my favorite wrestler because he used the nudo.
He used the nudo on Chris Saban, and it was great. And
they took turns posing on him.
Yeah, they did. And even Petey Williams sang the Canadian national anthem while posing on the nudoed Chris Saban. And then they had a wacky little match, had a lot of high spots, dives, that sort of thing. A couple shins whacked on a couple barricades. You know the deal. And ended up with the cradle shock by Chris Saban on Alex Shelley for the pin, since Alex is the one guy not in the Ultimate X match, so they could get rid of him. And then afterwards, Petey laid out Chris Saban with the pile driver, the Canadian Destroyer, and everybody went crazy and everybody was happy. And it was good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Vince.
Sorry.
Always there to follow up.
You gave all details for the match.
I know, and sometimes I talk so long that I need some breath.
Well, that's your fault then. If you say everything there's to say about it, then what do you...
It's my fault you're a poor co-host.
It's my fault.
Is that what you're saying?
It's my fault you said everything there was to say about the match.
Can't you say something not about the match or something?
It's my birthday next week.
We're going to talk about that in a second. Don't worry. Then we had Rhino versus Jeff Hardy. And this was your basic Raw match with hotter fans. Mm-hmm. And DQ when who ran in?
Abyss ran in first.
That's right. First Abyss ran in and they all sang a song.
They sang the Abyss song on Spike TV, so they have this company has officially arrived.
And the lights went out and Sabu hit the ring. Big wacky melee. And it set up the match. What the hell's it called?
Monsters Ball.
Monsters Ball, which they finally explained to us. Would you like to explain the Monsters Ball? Give you something to talk about for once?
These 4 men, Sabu, Abyss, Jeff Hardy, and Rhino, for 24 hours before the match are going to be locked in small rooms with no food, no water.
No light.
No light.
Yes, no light.
And then they're going to have a wrestling match after that.
They're going to be unleashed into the ring.
Now here's my question. Why would you ever sign a contract for a match like this? What do they have to gain?
It was a good question until I thought about the 4 men involved. Except for Rhino, I can see all 3 of the other men
Volunteering?
being all down for being locked in a room
solitary
with
confinement?
no water, no food, particularly Jeff Hardy with the no water, no food, no light, because he looks like he's been in that box 4 days a week, you know what I mean?
You got me there.
So, yeah. Then we had the big main event angle. First they showed footage of Jarrett winning the title at the No House show. Then he came out with his Evolution Light, basically. They were all... Jeff was playing the Hunter role. AMW was playing the Mark Jindrak, who never made it to Evolution, and who's another nobody that never made it there?
I don't know, Maven?
Randy Orton, Maven at the beginning, maybe. Whatever. They came out and they were boring, and Jarrett cut his boring promo, and then 3 Live Crew came out and said, "You're boring." So he said, well, why don't you come fight? And so they got into this big brawl, and then Team Canada hit the ring, and then the 3D, Team 3D, who I believe they're calling Devon and Brother Ray.
Oh, yes.
They hit the ring to make the save and hit 3Ds all over. And then finally, Jeff bailed before he took the 3D. I guess 3D was not trademarked because they were saying it left and right. And Jeff was backing up the ramp, and who should come out to save the day but Kevin Nash, who was at his laziest this evening.
Oh, yes.
The laziest run-in, the laziest promo, the laziest... I think he gave him a powerbomb.
He did.
I'm not sure.
He lifted him up and dropped him.
And then he cut the laziest, most boring promo ever, demanding a match at the pay. He didn't even demand. He said,
he announced,
"We're gonna have a match at the pay-per-view."
I think
Jeff.
his exact words were, "It's me and him."
It's me and him for that belt right there at the pay-per-view. Yep, it's gonna be a good one. Order now, kids. And that's what they did. And that was the end of the show. And it was kind of went off the cliff there in the last 1 minute with old Kevin Nash, but. Overall, I do not think you could have had a better debut on Spike TV. This was a hot show. The crowd was hot. It came off as, like, the total opposite of shitty SmackDown. Like,
yes.
This was a show when it was over where I can see a fan going, screw SmackDown. I'm going to watch this show every week.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I don't think there were a lot of fans saying that because I don't expect more than... what did I say? 0.9 on Monday? What did I say for today? 0.5?
It's on the site.
Yeah, check the site, kids. I didn't expect a huge first audience, but if a big first audience tuned in, they got a hell of a show. So.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, that was all the TV for tonight, and that's it for that.
Should we move on to next weekend?
Yeah.
Well, it's my birthday, everyone.
That's right.
We're having a party.
Vince is going to be 38.
I'm going to be 42. It really doesn't matter. This is what I decided. Once you're 30, you're just old.
I've been waiting. How can I explain this? A lot of people listen to this show and they think they know us, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in some ways they do, but they don't know you. I don't know if our expectations were too high or what the deal was, but we'll talk about all of that during this little update here. But I've got a new idea for the show, Vince.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
A new idea?
That's right, a new idea.
Woohoo!
The idea is that from now on, I will talk about what match we're going to discuss, and then you're going to start.
All right.
Because normally I do this big long rant, and then I go, Vinny?
And I go, yep.
Yes, and you respond with, yep, and you have absolutely nothing to add. So
And this formula has worked without failure for months now. You want to change it?
This formula has failed for months now, so therefore I want to change it.
No, it's your show.
And I'm actually sad that it took me this many months to finally change it, but...
That frankly is a sign that you should just start your whole life over, but...
Yeah. Well, let's get going. It was the TNA Bound for Glory pay-per-view, the big pay-per-view coming from Orlando, Florida, which had not been evacuated. And in hindsight, perhaps it would have been better if it had been evacuated and they'd been sent to a different building, because as much as I love the Orlando crowd because they usually save a show, tonight they got burnt out. I think tonight they almost passed the line into becoming elitist fans, where they've seen it all, and for some reason tonight, they just didn't appreciate as much what was going on in the ring as they usually do. So tonight, Orlando might have actually been a detriment to TNA. But it opened up with the pre-show, which was actually a hell of a pre-show, because the match on the pre-show was better than the majority of the matches on the show. And it was Alex Shelley, Roderick Strong, Austin Aries, and Sanjay Dutt in what was called an X Division 4-way, which was exactly what you would think it would be with these 4 men in an X Division 4-way. Vince?
First of all, I have to disagree with you comment on the crowd. I agree they got burned out, but I thought by and large they were still into the big spots, and they were burned out because it was such a long show. But I still think they're the Orlando crowd, and they were a lot of times more entertaining than anything that was going on in the ring. So.
That's true, but I don't know if you've been watching the TV of late, but the TV that I watched last night was, I guess, the second hour of tapings. And having been at the show for 2 hours, these people were hot from beginning to end last night for everything. And it was a complete 180 from what I saw tonight. There were spots where they would go nuts about something, but then the rest of the time, you know, there were periods during the Iron Man match and a lot of the other matches where they would just sort of sit there for a while, and then somebody would come up with a clever idea for a chant or something, and they'd get into it for a minute and then get quiet again. And yeah, tonight was not their night.
I agree, but I think it's more the show itself than them. But anyway, the X Division match, really awesome, really good, highly choreographed spot fest. But it was a spot fest where they hit all their spots. So hey, great. There's a lot of lucha influence, not so much in the moves, but in the pacing and just long choreographed spots, and some of them that involved all 4 men, and I don't know how nothing got screwed up.
That's right. There was one spot, I'm not sure exactly, it was like a double do-si-do and some leapfrogs and shit like that.
Clotheslines and leapfrogs and do-si-do and going over the top rope, and everyone was exactly where they're supposed to be for every part of it.
Yeah, and our exact thoughts were, how did that not get screwed up?
Yeah.
And it didn't get screwed up. It went off perfectly.
Yeah. So, yeah, really good match. Who won? Sanjay Dutt won when he hit the Dragon Rana. Is that what that's called?
Yeah, the Dragon Rana.
Yeah, the flipping.
It's basically a front flip into a Frankensteiner, which means you need to reverse direction in the middle of the move.
Yeah.
And for as difficult as that move is, he pulled it off fairly well.
Yeah, Sanjay looked really good, but everyone in this match looked good. My only complaint and also a suggestion to these young men, these were 4 of the most generic-looking people I've ever seen in my life. Especially, well, Sanjay had 2 things going for him. 1, he was wearing long tights, and 2, he's Indian, which, frankly, he's the only Indian wrestler I can think of, unless you count Sabu. But the other guys...
Which I don't.
Yeah, I haven't either. But the other guys were 3 generic white men with black boots, black knee pads, and black trunks, and literally half the time I was trying to figure out who was in the ring and who was on the apron. And at one point I left the room and I came back and I had forgotten who they all were and I had to think about it again.
Yeah, note to indie guys, this is not New Japan in 1970. You need something that will cause people to remember who you are 5 minutes after a match ends.
Don't be afraid of color.
Do not be afraid of color. Do not be afraid to let your personality show, because I don't think there are possibly that many indie wrestlers whose personality requires them to have black trunks and black boots.
Go for blues and reds and greens and purples and yellows. And
how about a little neon? We need to bring the neon back.
Yeah, neon was big in the 80s.
A little fringe.
Ooh, that's not a bad idea.
Here's the idea. Go ahead. I'll rant in a minute.
Well, just a quick note. And have 2 sets of everything. So if you have black and you come to the show and your opponent's also wearing black, then you can go with the red.
That's right, yeah. I was going to say that as an indie guy who doesn't have TV experience every week and that sort of thing, you need something to differentiate yourself. And believe me, if you're an indie guy who has a bunch of black tights and black boots and you actually came out on a show wearing neon and fringe, I guarantee you'd get over.
Oh, yeah.
Perhaps as a comedy figure, but it doesn't matter. At least they'd remember you when the match was over. They'd go, my God, what the hell was he wearing? But it's better than not remembering you at all.
It's better than I can't tell these men apart.
Yeah, so just do something, guys, for crying out loud. Grow your hair out, for Christ's sake. There's too many short haircuts on the indie scene. It's fine if you're a Backstreet Boy, but if you're a pro wrestler now, come on. You gotta have something different. So anyway, the Sanjay Dutt is going to be getting a big push because they put him over like crazy during the match and commentary, and then he won clean. So.
Oh, one other comment about this match. You mentioned that it was better than the majority of the show.
Yeah.
In hindsight, I'm pretty sure I think this was the best match in the show.
I'm not positive I would go that far, but it was very good.
Yeah.
Then we had a bunch of... Here was the other thing about the show. This one really sort of annoyed me. Kevin Nash had his health scare. He was not cleared to wrestle. And on the pre-show, they had a half hour to, I guess, explain how this was going to be remedied. And they didn't. Now, granted, they did reveal that Kevin Nash was not going to be there. That's good. However, to not reveal the main event challenger to go, you're going to have to pay $29.95 to find out who's wrestling Jeff Jarrett. Try to think of a worse promotional tactic than that. And the funny thing is, everybody's been ranting and raving about Taboo Tuesday for the past 2 weeks about how stupid this thing is because it didn't work last year. Well, one of the reasons it didn't work last year was because nobody knew it was going to be in the main event until the show was already on the air. And that's a key. It's not just the Tuesday thing. It's the fact that people are paying and they don't know what they're paying for. And very few people are willing to part with $34.95 when they don't even know what the hell they're paying for. And while this wasn't really a match that was going to sell 1 million buys because nobody really gives a shit about Jeff Jarrett anyway, you probably should have revealed a challenger for the main event during the pre-show, but they did not.
Yeah, it would have been easy just to say, we're going to do a 10-man gauntlet and the winner gets the match.
Yeah, but they didn't.
Take it that much time. But anyway.
Then we opened up with Samoa Joe and Jushin Liger.
Joe came out doing his wacky Samoan dance with his brothers, I guess. And I thought this was awesome. Just because it's Joe, and Joe can make anything work.
It was weird because I watched Joe dancing, and Joe, he was doing a Polynesian dance. Don't get me wrong. He was jumping and tapping his feet, and I thought, my God, this is the Samoan submission machine or killing machine. He's out there dancing, and I really should have hated it. I really should have. But I loved it. Yeah. It's wrong of me, but I loved it.
Well, it helps that it's not like he was doing ballet or soft shoe. It was all stomping and clapping and slapping his own face. So.
He was sort of doing soft shoe, Vince, let's be honest.
Otherwise, I shuffling back and forth a bit.
Yeah.
But, and so he got a big entrance, and then Liger came out to his sweet song, and they all threw streamers, and I was all jacked and ready to go, and this was the match that I was just most looking forward to, and it went like 6 minutes. And Joe won. Joe hit the muscle buster and put on the choke, and it was over, and, it was fine for a 6-minute match, but that's all it was.
See, I really think that the reason that we seem to hate this show more than a lot of people is our expectations were too high.
Yeah,
I mean, if you look at the matches that we did not think were blow-away matches, and we'll get into all of them on this show, if you really think about the match, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, there was nothing wrong with this match at all. I mean, it was for a 6-minute match, it was very good, but I was expecting a much longer, much better match, and thus I was disappointed.
Yeah, I think this just crossed my mind, but I wonder if I got hyped up hearing about Joe Kobashi and thought maybe this would be on that level.
This was not Joe Kobashi.
No, this is not Joe.
This may have been Kenna Kobashi and Gypsy Joe.
Sure.
Because I think Kenna Kobashi could get a 2.5-star match out of Gypsy Joe, who's still wrestling, by the way, for those of you wondering. He's about 900 years old now. Then we had the Diamonds in the Rough versus Shark Boy, Apollo, and Sonny Siaki. That was your cue, by the way.
I know. Well, it's a new idea. We're still working out the kinks.
That's right.
It requires me to pay attention, first of all. That's strike one. Sonny Siaki has finally not looked like The Rock anymore because he came out in a blue pimp suit and this wacky hat. And I believe, did he shave his head?
Yeah.
He may have.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Or at least he did the last time I remember seeing his head, which was on Impact about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Actually, I don't remember much of this match at all. They did a 6-man. It was not great. I do remember a big dive spot highlighted by Apollo, who's a really big man to be doing that kind of dive. He did like a tope over the top.
Yeah.
David Young hit somebody with a spine buster and pinned him clean, and holy cow, the Diamonds in the Rough finally won a match.
The Diamonds in the Rough won a match, which sort of it resulted in me having to erase an entire rant, which upset me greatly, but what can you do? But yeah, Simon Diamond, his wacky crew is on a win streak now. They are now 1-640. So
I would just assume this match had been canceled and they gave the time to Joe and Liger.
I strongly agree. But apparently they felt if they billed the Diamonds in the Rough versus Shark Boy, Apollo, and Sonny Siaki and then pulled the match, there would be a rash of complaints. And I guess they figured there would be more complaints than Joe and Liger being given 7 minutes, but yeah.
Especially considering Jushin Liger lives in Japan.
Yeah, and he was only in for this show. He's not even in for the tapings. They're flying him back home now.
Oh, my God.
He flew to America for 7 minutes.
Okay, let's move on. I'm going to cry.
Monty Brown and Lance Hoyt.
Lance Hoyt. This is not nearly as good as that Lance Hoyt Abyss match they did a few months ago.
That's right.
Although that being said, Monty Brown is a freak. The finish was Hoyt was running wild. He hit the moonsault. He hit the big boot, and he went up top for something, and Monty Brown caught him. And I'll remind you that Lance Hoyt is 6'9", and he's not as big as a lot of other big guys.
Well, he's supposedly 6'9", but go ahead.
He's very tall. He's not the thickest man in the world, but he's a great big man. And
he's a large man, yeah.
Monty Brown caught him and then threw him onto his shoulders and hit an alpha bomb.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
It was one of the best feats of strength that I've seen in a year, probably. But in fact, probably since Brock Lesnar left.
Maybe some of the stuff Lashley's done. That's about all I can think of.
Yeah.
But
you're forgetting something very important, Vince.
What's that?
That spectacular feat of strength and that awesome move was not the finish.
Not the finish.
He hit the alpha bomb. Let me explain exactly what happened because I'm still annoyed about this. Lance Hoyt comes off the top with a high cross. Monty Brown catches him, throws him up in the air, catches him in powerbomb position, gives him the alpha bomb, makes the cover. Lance Hoyt kicks out.
Yeah.
Approximately 15 seconds later, they're against the ropes, and Lance Hoyt is throwing these awful punches at him. He goes to whip Monty Brown into the ropes. Monty reverses it and hits the pounce and wins.
Yeah.
That was the finish, and that blew.
Yeah, you're right about that. It's the alpha bomb was way cooler. They got the pounce over, and I guess they figure they want him to have his one finisher that he uses for some reason. But it would have been better if he had just hit the alpha bomb and pinned him. Yeah,
this was the third 7-minute match in a row, and this was maybe the best of the first three, really, just because the crowd was so hot for it. But
crowd's hot because we all know they love Lance Hoyt, and frankly, they amuse me, so that doesn't bother me too much.
Yeah.
But Joe and Liger was better than this.
Yeah. Then we had Team Canada 3 Live Crew, which was a storyline, basically.
Yeah, it was pretty much exactly what you expect from this match. A1 got to wrestle and didn't. I don't think he screwed up anything.
No.
So good for him. The hell was the finish? Oh, the big
what
deal
the hell was the finish? Let me yell at you here for a second, Vince.
Yeah.
I
remember now.
What's the finish? The finish is the finish of every Team Canada match in the last 3 freaking years.
That's true. Kip James came up beforehand and said, "Hey, they've got Scott D'Amore in their corner. Let me be in your corner, and I'll watch your back." And BG said, "That's a great idea." And Truth said, "That's a great idea." And Conan said, "That's a terrible idea." So Kip pouted and decided he was not going to be in their corner. And so they did the match, and sure enough, Kip came out to watch the thing from the stage, sitting there in a chair reading, "I'm Kip James, bitch." Or that was what his T-shirt said. And they did the match, and D'Amore interfered, and the hockey stick got involved, and he could have saved the day, but to make a point, he let them lose via the hockey stick and
the flag,
whatever the hell it is. And then he came down afterwards to make the save, and he pulled BG out of the ring, and Team Canada held Conan so Kip could hit him with a chair, but Kip took the chair and ran wild on Canada, so he's trying to prove his loyalty to the 3 Live Crew.
Yeah, which of course means he's turning very soon, but...
Of course he was, and then the crowd was chanting New Age Outlaws the whole time, so...
Yeah.
It's kind of sad, but we all know what's going to happen. And frankly, then they'll have the Dudleys and the AMW and New Age Outlaws and the deepest tag team division in the world.
Yeah. If I see that goddamn flag one more time, I may do an MMA boycott on TNA, because I've been watching for 3 years that stupid flag involved in the finish of every Team Canada match. And for the first several months, year really, I thought, all right, every fucking match has the same finish. Team Canada gets the flag, they hit someone with it, they get the win. All right, this has to be leading up to something. It's been 3 years. I thought the same thing with Scott D'Amore always hitting people with the damn flag. I thought, this has got to be building up to something. Finally, it did. Scott D'Amore was taken off TV. Well, guess what? He's back, and he's using the flag. I'm not sure if they think that the constant use of the flag is building up such great heat for Team Canada that thousands of fans are snatching up tickets, which are free, so I doubt it, and there aren't even 1,000 people in the building, and snatching up pay-per-view buys and calling their cable company to see Team 3D or Team Canada foiled. Oh, God, look at that. Look at me. Let me relax for a second here.
All I can say about that is that I am actually far more sick of their theme song than I am about the flag.
Fuck the theme song. It doesn't even matter. That's easy heat. I'm talking just the same thing over. This is like a Hunter promo. I've listened to the same Hunter promo for the last 5 years. Blah, 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 blah. I'm the best, da-da-da-da-da. And people bitch about that, but for some reason, TNA thinks it's fine to keep doing the same Team Canada finish in every single match. I don't know how it gets the guys over. I don't know how it builds heat. I don't know how it sells tickets. It's been 3 years now. Just, please, do something. So, with that said, I worked myself into such a frenzy there that I lost my train of thought halfway through, so I apologize for that. But let's move on. Chris Saban, Matt Bentley, and Petey Williams, Ultimate X.
The disaster of the night, and it's kind of the fault of those involved. They were doing your typical Ultimate X match, taking wacky dives and falling off the cables and killing each other, basically. And then at one point, the X fell off. And people booed the X, and the match was halted, and they brought out a ladder to rehang it, and the three guys had to ad-lib a brawl. And it occurred to me, this is the first time I've ever seen these guys ad-lib anything.
And it did not look good.
Yeah. And they hung the X back up, and then about 2 minutes later, it fell again. And it happened to fall right into Petey Williams' hands, and that was it. And it ended. And everyone was angry.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
And, I was reading Dave Meltzer's thing where he talked about how... he said everyone was angry and they shouldn't have been. I think that's true for Petey Williams, but in the storyline, it makes total sense for Bentley and Saban to be pissed about this whole thing, because Petey won the match even though he didn't climb the cables to get the X. So when they were doing laps around the ring and stomping and swearing, and Saban was stomping up the ramp and probably swearing a blue streak, and that all made sense.
Well,
but it didn't mean that the match was still just a disaster.
I can sort of see where Dave is coming from here, because, yes, they should have been very angry, but if this were real, and let's just say I'm Matt Bentley, and this is a real fight, a real battle, and I'm doing this Ultimate X match, and the X falls off the thing, and it lands in the other guy's hands, and the ref calls for the bell. My first reaction would be to confront the ref. And I would be screaming at the ref and yelling at the ref and pleading my case, particularly if I'm a bad guy like Matt Bentley. Storming to the back made this look like an unprofessional act, because you just don't normally see that sort of behavior from somebody that loses. You can see somebody get very upset when they lose, but they usually plead their case to somebody or something of that nature. This was just, we're going to flip out, we're going to run to the back, our head down, our hands on our hips, and it did come off looking very unprofessional. But, I mean, the way I look at it is, it was such a disaster that it sort of doesn't even matter at that point. I mean, first off, it was below the level of your usual Ultimate X match, and, the X falling off the cables really is hokey. There's got to be a better way, or there's got to be something better that they can hang from that cable that's not going to come undone. At least with a belt, there's 10 snaps on the back of the belt that you can make sure that belt is not coming down unless you grab it and yank the shit out of it to get it off that thing. And I don't know how they hung that thing up there, but
it looked like it was hung with like package ribbon, like you would wrap up for a bow or a Christmas present.
Yeah, and it fell down once, and they should have learned their lesson the first time, because this is not the first time this happened. This happened on previous pay-per-views. And it fell off. They put it back up. They brought out a ladder. Of course, everybody was chanting, use the ladder, which the guys did not improvise into the match, which was probably foolish. And then it fell off again, and Petey Williams was standing right there, and he at least was thinking. And he grabbed it, and he celebrated. And there was like a split second where I guess the ref had to decide what to do, and he decided to ring the bell since Petey was going to win anyway. And the fans sure did not like that. And just really an utter disaster of a match. And I really don't know what else to say about that. A lot of people may have bought this pay-per-view for the first time to see this, and this is what they saw, and that's not good.
That's very, very bad.
So then we had America's Most Wanted and The Naturals in a rematch from the match last night, which had a completely absurd finish. And this one may have been even more absurd.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, going into the show, and really there was a promo about an hour in that clued me in. I thought they were doing AMW and Team 3D. And then they show the highlights of...
Well, you haven't been watching the TV, have you?
Well, no, I have not.
That explains it.
Okay, but... So, okay, it's my fault for being uninformed, but then that makes the booking of the match from last night even less or even more nonsensical. Because why would you have them win the titles and then do a rematch the very next day on a pay-per-view? Why not have them win the titles here?
I think the actual reason is because Spike wanted a title change.
Oh, well, there's that.
And there's only a couple of titles. Although the funny thing now is they're going to get another title change probably very soon.
On their special, yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, there you go. This was the AMW versus the Naturals. AMW are very good, but they have some serious flaws, and the Naturals are not good and have a lot of flaws. And this is bad. This is long and boring and crowd brawling, and the opening segment was the Naturals doing a Rudo beatdown, even though they are not the Rudos. But they would take turns beating up each of the other men, or double teaming each of the other guys one at a time, if that makes any sense at all. And they ended up, AMW came back and did more stuff. Naturals made the coldest comeback you ever saw. And then finally they handcuffed one of the Naturals to the guardrail. I've already forgotten their names. I knew their names after that FCW show, but I don't now. And they broke a bottle over his head or something and hit the death sentence and pinned him, and it was over. And I hated it.
You know, I got to say something about the Naturals. I follow wrestling rather closely, as I'm sure you're all aware, as does young Vincent here. I watch every TNA pay-per-view. I watch pretty much every TV show. I have for 3 years since the company started, 3 years and 3 months or whatever it's been. And I like to think that I pay pretty close attention most of the time. And I'm not trying to not know the names of the Naturals. But it has been 3 years, and I could not tell you their names. If I really thought about it, I could come up with their 2 names, but I could not identify which one is which.
I do know the names, but I don't know which is which.
It's been 3 years. They have been the tag team champions many times. And I could yell at the Naturals for just being so fucking bland and having no personality whatsoever that in any way distinguishes them or makes them memorable. But really, after 3 years, I just got to blame TNA. They are still pushing these 2 men that in 3 years have not distinguished themselves in any way. The only thing I know about them is that they're called the Naturals. One is blonde, one has brown hair. There's absolutely nothing special about them, either in the way they work or their personalities, which I know nothing about. I don't know if I've ever heard them speak, and if I have, I've absolutely, utterly forgotten it. And I'm a long-term viewer, so I can only imagine what a first-time viewer must think about these absolutely generic, nothing-happening tag teams. Look at how over the Dudleys are. That's because everybody knows who they are. If they're on, let's say you're a first-time viewer, you've never watched wrestling before, you watch TNA for the first time. In 2 weeks, you're going to know both of the Dudleys inside and out. And in 3 years, you probably still won't have any idea who the Naturals are. So why they're still a major part of this show, I've got no idea. And the same, can I say one more thing before you interrupt me, Vince? I know I'm going off on a rant here. Cassidy fucking Riley. I still have no earthly idea what the point of Cassidy Riley and this Raven thing is. It's been over a year now, and it annoys me. It annoys me because I've invested so much of my life, literally minutes, in Cassidy Riley, that I should know by now what the point of his existence in the world of TNA is, and I have no idea. Yeah.
No, the Naturals at their very best are boring, and they're often not that good.
Yeah.
So
then we had the epic, the match we've all been waiting for, kids. Abyss. Oh, by the way, I got to go back to the other match one more time. The finish last night of the tag match was a bottle was broken over one of the Naturals' heads, and even though the ring was filled with broken glass, the referee dropped down and countered, and he thought nothing of it. Okay? Last night I thought, this is one of the most absurd finishes I've seen this year. So anyway, tonight it gets even better. Natural A was handcuffed to the barricade, and the ref thought nothing of this. Apparently in the TNA rule book, if you can manage to handcuff one of your opponents to a barricade, that's perfectly within the rules. So then the referee got distracted, and another bottle was broken over the Natural's head. And so he's laying there in a pool of blood surrounded by broken glass. And this time, perhaps somebody backstage had smartened up the ref and storyline at the broken glass deal. So the ref sees the broken glass. And what happens? Why, James Storm goes, "It's one of those guys." And he points to a fan. He claimed a fan had thrown a bottle into the ring and hit the Natural in the head, and it had splattered all over the place. And the ref believed him.
Yes.
And he counted the pinfall. And I thought, my God, that's way up there. That is even dumber than last night, which sets new standards. But anyway, to move on. Abyss, Sabu, Jeff Hardy, and Rhino.
The Monsters Ball match. I was disappointed that after being locked for 24 hours in rooms with no food, no water, no light, we didn't get to see them emerging from these rooms.
Yeah.
That would have been your just great melodramatic footage, or in the case of Jeff Hardy, some great comedy. As you're just desperate for a hit of something. But I think this match, it was probably better than we thought it was at the time because we were burned out and disappointed in the show.
Yeah.
These fuckers killed each other.
Oh, yeah.
They just beat the rat out of each other with everything you could think of. The biggest spot was Jeff Hardy taking Abyss up to the stage and laying him out on a pair of tables and climbing way the hell up and way the hell back on the stage and hitting this just enormous senton onto him and just about blowing out his knee on the landing. And it was probably 12 or 14 feet down, and I have no idea how far out he had to jump. But it was a huge, scary, terrifying, insane dive. And
it was probably 14 feet up, legit.
And
I was trying to measure with Jim Mitchell and with the stage, and it was extraordinarily high and extraordinarily long because he had to clear the stage.
He had to clear the stage, and that's a good 6 to 8 feet there. This is a big, huge, scary, easy. He could have easily been killed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and just my God, and there was 1,000 other tables broken and chairs and sticks and. They teased thumbtacks, but I just realized they never delivered them.
No, they didn't.
Yeah.
I should note that after doing this insane dive, somebody can do the math for me, but 14 feet up and 15 feet away and what the Pythagorean theorem is. But regardless, he smashed onto Abyss and broke the table, and they were both, like, dead human beings. And 2 minutes later, Abyss was back in the ring working. And about 2.5 minutes later, Jeff Hardy was back. And I thought, well, if I ever do a dive like that, I better be carted out like I'm in Mexico after being hit with a martinet and not return for 6 months.
Yeah, I agree. But instead, Jeff returned and actually ended up getting pinned when Rhino hit a pile driver off the second rope.
Yeah. Which
was safer than it sounds.
Yeah.
But Rhino won, and the crowd loved this.
This was awesome chant, that sort of thing.
This is the only match on the show to get the "This is awesome" chant. There's usually a few of those.
Actually, no, they got it in the Iron Man match during a headlock.
No, that's right. But yeah, for excuse me.
Good God.
Sorry, I think I've got the bird flu. For epic insanity and guys wailing on each other, this is pretty good.
Yeah, it was exactly probably what you would expect. They all killed each other, like Vince said. Sabu hit all his moves. I'm sure there will be some injuries coming out of this. Jeff looked like he broke his leg. Abyss looked like he broke his hand. Probably just a lot of selling, but with some of these dives and such, I would not be surprised if we got an injury rundown tomorrow. But
yeah. wake up tomorrow and just hate life.
I think Jeff was hating life when he limped out for the Battle Royal later. But then we had the Iron Man match, 30 minutes, AJ Styles, Chris Daniels for the X title.
Disappointing, at least I thought. It was good. There wasn't anything wrong with it, but I think the Iron Man thing, it was novel when Shawn and Brett did it. And
in
then,
1996.
Yeah, and then they retired it for about 5 years, I guess, and then we've seen it with, WWE's done it a ton in various forms, and seen it, we've just seen it too much before.
Yeah.
And now, knowing, basically with these, there's no point in watching anything until the end because you know it's going to be a close finish.
Yeah.
If they did an Iron Man match...
And they pace themselves, so there's really no reason to watch at least the first 15 minutes.
That's true. There's no chance the thing's going to end. If they did an Iron Man match and somebody won like 7-2, it would be, that one match would be very boring, but there'd be a reason to pay attention to the whole match the next time they did one.
Yeah.
But, they worked hard, and they're both awesome. And they had, they all hit their moves, and finish came when AJ hit the Styles Clash with like 5 seconds to go, rolled him over, and got the pin with a second to go.
Yeah.
And really, not much else to say than that. It was, for their standards, bad.
It was way below the level of what they have given us in the past. And I will say this, I don't need to ever see an Iron Man match again.
Yeah.
It's exactly like we've mentioned many times over the past 6 months when they've done all these Iron Man matches on various TV shows, but they pace themselves. The first few minutes, you know nothing's going to happen. You know nothing's going to happen until the very end. And to me, I look at it like, if you want your guys to go 30 minutes, just have them go 30 minutes. Just have them get in the ring and go 30 minutes. Have them go 40. What the hell? Have them go 60. Who cares?
Sure.
And
if you want to let the fans know it's going to go that long, just do like 2 out of 3 falls.
Sure, and you don't even have to tell them it's going to go that long. Don't tell them. Yeah. You don't have to tell them. What's the point? So you can go, Chris Daniels and AJ Styles are Iron Men. They went 30 minutes in an Iron Man match. Well, guess what? If you just had them go 35 minutes, you can go, these two dudes are Iron Men. They wrestled for 35 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, you're not going to go out and tell the fans AJ Styles is going to win. So if you're not going to tell them what the finish is going to be, don't frickin' tell them how long the match is going to be. Just tell the guys. Yeah. Iron Man matches are totally useless.
No more of these.
No more, ever again. Then we had the gauntlet match. They finally announced that 10 men were going to have a short Royal Rumble match to determine who was going to get the title shot, which this was the reason so many matches were cut short on a 3.5-hour show. And they should have just named a guy. Just name Rhino. Who cares? But, yeah, it was... hasn't Rhino been the champion before?
I don't think so.
Are you sure? I seem to recall he won the match on a pay-per-view, and I was stunned.
No, there was one with her where Jarrett did a tag match. And it was Rhino and Jarrett were a team. And
okay, that's right. It was a Raven one that flipped me out. But anyway.
Yeah.
So they did this.
That was kind of the same deal here, where he was a last-minute replacement, and so they had him win, to send the fans home happy.
Yeah. It is an old school booking idea where if the main event challenger has to be replaced, you put him over. I don't know if I would have done it here. I think it was a bad idea. There were different ways you could have sent the crowd home happy, but...
I thought it was a terrible idea for Raven. This one because they were built up. Raven talked about his destiny for years and years, and he finally got his one title shot and didn't get it, and then he was still cutting it in his promos, and then one day it just happened.
Yeah.
And they're just so anticlimactic. This was more out of nowhere, and for that reason, I didn't have as big a problem with it. The gauntlet was the first part of it was okay. As guys are coming in, they let Joe have a stare down with basically everyone because almost everyone's new to him. So they let Joe go toe-to-toe with Lance Hoyt, which is good, actually, believe it or not, because it's Joe. And they let Joe stare down at Biff, and everyone got into that. Monty Brown came out, and I think the deal... We all know Monty Brown's going to win the NWA World title at some point in the future. They want to build up to it, so he couldn't win here. So they had him just get eliminated immediately by Jeff Hardy. And it was like a fluke elimination. Hardy hit him, and they kind of both tumbled over. So rather than have him he didn't really lose. Not that you can lose in a battle royal, but he didn't get punked out by anybody. He got eliminated.
He eliminated himself.
Yeah, he basically eliminated himself.
And really, he actually did eliminate himself because the idea, I think he was supposed to clothesline Jeff over and they'd both go to the floor.
Yeah.
But he sort of fucked it up and ended up sitting on the apron, and he knew he was supposed to go over, and he's too green to, I guess, improvise. So he's sitting on the apron, and then he just jumped off. Yeah. And everybody in the crowd knew it, and there were actually boos and shit like that, and I thought, ooh, this was not what Monty Brown needed.
Yeah, I think I'll get over it, but yeah, that was bad too. But now, next pay-per-view, they can do Monty Brown versus Jeff Hardy. So that gives they need to give him something to do until it's time for him to do the turn and the chase of the title.
Yeah.
So, anyway, eventually everyone got in the ring, and then this sucked.
Oh, God, yes.
It was 6 men or 8 men or however many it was just laying there for a long time. Eventually got whittled down some. Joe put a chokehold on AJ, and Abyss came over and dumped them both, and then it was Abyss and Rhino, and then Rhino hit the gore and tossed him over. So
at least the heartthrobs weren't in the last 4.
That's true. They could have... Romeo Roselli could be the NWA World Champion right now.
That's right, yeah, he could. Yeah.
So Rhino at this point...
Or at least in the running.
What's that?
In the running.
Sure. So Rhino had now survived and won Monsters Ball and had survived and won this Gauntlet Royal or whatever the hell you call it.
After being in a box with no water for 24 hours.
After being in a box with no food, water, or light for 24 hours. Then Jarrett came out right away, and they did a title match. It wasn't awful. It was okay.
Basic Jarrett Rhino match, exactly what you'd expect.
Yep. Jarrett got the heat with everything, gave him the comeback, got the guitar. They do one great spot where Jarrett got a second guitar after AMW and Gail Kim came out and everything. And he swung the guitar, and Rhino ducked and hit the ropes behind him, and everyone in the world thought he was going to hit the gore. And he came off the ropes, and he went for the gore, and Jarrett swung this guitar like Willie Mays. Just cracked it over Rhino's head. And it was awesome. And everyone thought it was a finish, and then Rhino kicked out.
It's actually very surprising because that's the sort of thing that causes people to have the severe neck injuries, the shots with objects to the top of the head.
To the top of the head.
And Rhino, of course, has had serious neck surgery as a result of doing stupid stuff, and here he is still doing it.
The only thing I can figure is that these are very gimmick guitars.
Doesn't matter.
All right. And then eventually he came back and hit a second gore and got the win. And, hey, Rhino's your new National Wrestling Alliance World Heavyweight Champion.
Rhino is the champion of the Earth.
Of the Earth.
He is. Of the whole Earth, the Rhino, the man-beast, is the champion, which really is fitting when you actually think about it. But yeah, Rhino won a very bad gauntlet. I will say this about the world title match. Tito Ortiz is not a bad ref at all. I have seen some real shitty guest refs, and Tito Ortiz was not one of them. Although the world's new most dangerous man sure did disappear at the end afterwards. He was
gone.
He countered his pin, he got his money, he got his Punishment Athletics gear on the air, and then he bailed. And that was the end. 18 million bad guys attacked the good guys, and he was backstage having a hot dog or something like that. Didn't give a shit. And finally, Team 3D ran in. Everybody been chanting for them. They ran wild, and you and I have both forgotten the star of this show tonight.
Not until right now. The star of every TNA show. The star of the world of wrestling.
The star of the world of wrestling. And I actually wrote in the newsletter this week that he's the best wrestler in the whole world. And
was he good on Impact?
And what was that?
Was he good on Impact or something?
No, from watching his performance on this show, I have determined that he is the best wrestler in the world. And I'm going to let you reveal it, Vince.
Well, that would be the one and only Showtime Eric Young.
That's right. Showtime Eric Young.
They brought out a casket, and they said they were going to have another funeral for Nash, and then they decided someone was going in the casket, and of course it ended up being Rhino. So they laid him out in the casket, and he jumped up on top, and they were all having a party, and then...
No, they were having a brawl, and he was up there trying to avoid everything.
Well, before that, they were having a party, and he just jumped up and
That's right,
celebrating. Yeah. Then 3 Live Crew came out, and then Team 3D came out, and there was this wild brawl going on, and Eric Young was standing on the casket in the middle of the ring, hands at his sides, just looking around.
Yes.
Confused, perplexed, wondering what to do. And then at that point, it was already great. You had to see it. I can't describe it.
Yes.
Eventually, he waited far too long to try to escape until he was the only heel left in the ring, and they hit a 3D on him and put him in the box. And the show ended with the good guys putting the belt on Rhino. They should have lifted him on the shoulders, except he's really big.
That's right.
Maybe they couldn't.
He would have crushed someone.
He would have hurt someone bad. So.
Yeah, Eric Young in the tag match earlier. It was Team Canada versus 3 Live Crew. Eric Young was so the man. He was so awesome. Just the greatest performer you ever saw. And they also had the Kid and Play spot that 3 Live Crew stole, which was also incredibly awesome. That was. Looking back, that was a fun match. Did we even talk about that match? Oh, yeah, we did, because I ranted about the flag. But, looking back now, that match was much better than I remember, just because of Eric Young and Kid and Play. So, good stuff there. Yeah. But, yeah, that was your TNA pay-per-view. A disappointment. I think that as a first-time show, I will say this. We've watched a lot of TNA for 3 years now, and we're like the fans in Orlando. We've seen it all. First-time viewers that bought the pay-per-view after watching 4 weeks on Spike TV, I think they would have been disappointed with the Ultimate X match, but I think that there was enough totally different stuff from WWE, especially if these people had bought the last SmackDown pay-per-view, that I think that if they bought this show, they would have left going, I'll probably buy the next one as well. And I don't think it was a disaster in that it turned off fans, new fans. It may have disappointed fans that bought this show and hadn't bought a TNA pay-per-view in a long time, but what the hell, they're not buying all the shows anyway. So I don't think it was a disaster as far as turning off new fans, so that's a good thing.
No. That being said, if I had taped the show, I would take the tape and tape over or something.
there was no reason to save it.
Yeah.
But I suppose we should talk about this pay-per-view very quickly.
I imagine we will talk more about Eddie for the coming weeks.
Yeah?
So, yeah, we may as well move on.
I'm just going to go to the results very quickly. There ain't a whole lot to talk about.
It wasn't. We'll wrap this up. I shouldn't say wrap it up, but when the show was over, I turned to you and said, if this wasn't for Christian, this would have been the most pointless pay-per-view ever.
Yeah. And
a show where they did some matches. Nothing monumental.
No.
One really weird angle, but...
Yeah. It opened up with Raven and a mystery man who ended up being P.J. Polacco, the former Just Incredible, who wrestled in a cut-off tank top and jean shorts and looked otherwise exactly the same. They had a short match, really nothing to it. Raven won with the DDT. Anything else I'm forgetting? Or you weren't here for that, were you?
I was late. I missed that part.
All right, well, you missed nothing.
I suspect I missed little, yeah.
Yeah, then we had 3 Live Crew versus Team Canada. And I will actually add one more thing. Earlier I said there were only 2 things this day that took my mind off Eddie and helped my day.
I see where you're going with this
I can
already.
add number 3, which was BG... Or what the hell's his name? Billy Gunn. Bill E. Gunn. Whatever the hell his name is now. Kip James. He came out wearing Shawn Michaels' 2 short black spandex biker shorts and a ref shirt tied at the waist like a girl from 1985 and refereed in this. And
he could not have possibly looked any gayer.
No.
This is just no other way to put it.
In fact,
big, tan, peroxide blonde, spandex shorts, belly showing guy.
All I can think is that tomorrow I'm going to have to get a screen grab of Billy Gunn in this attire so that anytime the Raw show is about to slay me, which I expect to be every 5 minutes, I can look at Billy Gunn in this attire and chuckle because it was a legendary outfit. Shawn Michaels never even tied his shirt at the belly, I don't think, when he was refereeing.
Shawn was too macho for that.
Yeah, and when he was doing it, it was to get heat so people would call him terrible names. Billy Gunn, I think, thought he looked hot. You know what I mean? He wasn't out there trying to get heat. He was out there because he was going to be a babyface ref. He
thought it was cool.
Yeah, he thought he looked sexy or something. I don't know, but he was also the tallest man in the match. And I don't know. They had a match. I have no idea what happened. The show actually, to be honest, is sort of a blur. The only vivid memory I have is AJ Styles.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that. But
we'll get to that.
The good guys won.
Yeah, it was a 6-man, and there were the hockey sticks on all the corners the guys were trying to constantly get. It was pretty much a cluster of guys running in and doing stuff and going for sticks. The one spot that sticks with me is Conan hit Eric Young with his shoe. And Eric Young sold this.
He'd been shot in the chest.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Dropped to his knees, clutched his chest, and then collapsed and couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
It was
a shoe.
Awesome.
Yeah.
A sneaker.
Yeah. So Eric Young, once again, totally saved this match. So.
Once again, saved the show.
Then we had...
he's still scared by his own pyro, which is always great.
Yeah. Christian came out, and Christian Cage now basically cut a promo running down WWE, saying he was in TNA because he loved wrestling. To make a long story short, Scott D'Amore came out, invited him to join Team Canada. He said he would think about it. They gave him a Team Canada shirt, and I guess he was going to make his decision by the end of the show. Then we had Jeff Hardy and Monty Brown. It was a contenders match. They didn't specify what number contender, so this could have been a number 15 contenders match for all I know, and
Yeah.
realistically it should have been. Jeff Hardy tried to do a Jeff Hardy match with Monty Brown, and if you've ever seen any TNA, you can not possibly fathom how horrible this was.
This was bad.
They could not work together, and Monty Brown won with the pounce, and
moving on. There was a point here where Jeff, I don't want to speculate about Jeff Hardy, but at one point he began to, if you were playing with a child and you were trying to scare the child by acting like a monster
yeah.
and growling and waving your hands around, that's what Jeff Hardy did to Monty Brown,
Yeah.
who is not, you will note, a child.
No, but he's
And
from the
was not
Serengeti.
scared. He's from Serengeti.
So,
And there were two amazing things about this. One, that it happened. Two, it kind of got over.
yeah, it did. It is strange.
People cheered.
They were like, we're seeing something we've never seen before here. We should
that-
probably cheer.
That must be it. Just the sheer novelty of it, because it was not in any way good.
No. Then we had Samoa Joe, Chris Daniels, Alex Shelley, and Roderick Strong versus Chris Saban, Matt Bentley, Sanjay Dutt, and Austin Aries in basically a Survivor Series match, and it was below my expectations, but what the hell, you know? What can you do?
Yeah, it wasn't awesome. It was fun. It was a tornado, basically a tornado cybernetico with guys just coming in, doing a ton of spots, and then getting right back out.
It was a total spot fest.
It was, yeah, the spot fest of, well, I was going to say, this particular TNA show is probably the best way to say it.
Yeah, and it came down to Samoa Joe and Chris Daniels versus Chris Saban, 2-on-1. Saban made a big comeback, but eventually fell victim to the Angels' wings after Samoa Joe got knocked to the outside or something like that. But basically, Joe and Daniels worked together a lot, and then when it was over, Samoa Joe turned on Daniels and destroyed him with chair shots. Daniels did a stretcher job, and it was odd.
It was very odd.
It was, I mean, they kept talking about, it was like a Ring of Honor angle, you know what I mean? Back when they had the Code of Honor. It's like they were building up to a fight without honor.
Yeah.
And AJ later's talking about this code that Joe broke, this unwritten code, and I was very confused. But
Well,
Joe,
it was weird because you have Daniels, who's been a heel in TNA, I'm pretty sure his entire tenure there, and you have Joe, who is new. He's very over, but he basically works like a heel.
yeah,
And so, and then afterwards, because they did a deal where they were yelling at each other and then shook hands, and then Joe turned on him, and I was certain that Daniels was going to turn on him. But no, Joe took him out and laid waste to him in a most terrible, violent display. So you had the guy who the fans kind of liked and the guy the fans were supposed to boo, and the babyface here was just destroying Daniels. And as Tanae was ranting about how horrible it was, and how awful it was, the fans were chanting, "Let's go, Joe! Let's go, Joe!"
yeah. It was. I think the idea obviously was supposed to be a double turn of sorts, because
It did not work.
yeah, I guess it was a double turn because I sort of didn't realize that Joe was a heel until like the last show I watched.
Yeah.
I'm like, why is Joe on the heel team? Oh,
Yeah.
he must be a heel, which is a problem that TNA needs to address, a little more character development perhaps. But it's supposed to be I guess, I don't know. Joe's now a major heel supposedly, even though everybody, I mean,
Everyone loves him.
he was destroying Daniels, and they were cheering for him. Like, cheering like they wanted to cheer him on.
Yeah.
Like he was coming from behind, and he was destroying this man.
Well,
So,
at the end, as Daniels was laying there in a bloody, crumpled heap, the fans were chanting one more time.
yeah, so,
So this is quite possibly the single worst heel turn I've ever seen.
yeah. So, then we had Abyss and Sabu. Spectacle, as you'd expect.
Spectacle, car wreck.
I will say one thing about this match. It's a new audience. 2/3 of the audience, I'd say, is new. And they could have got a year out of the thumbtacks before somebody kicked out of them. Now, no more. They did a bunch of spots on them. Sabu went into them first. Then Abyss went into them. And they both kicked out of the thumbtacks.
Yeah.
And it took a black hole slam onto a barbed wire covered chair to finally pin Sabu. And these guys, I guess I just got to say, you got to love them for loving the sport as much as they do. But I wouldn't do it in a billion years.
No. And there's, it was good for what it was, which, a train wreck. But
yeah,
they were cut up and in pain and agony, and this won.
Yep. And we had AJ and Petey Williams. And I know this is probably a bad day to say this, but as I was watching this match, I thought, if AJ is not addicted to painkillers or crippled by the time he turns 30 years old, I will be stunned. Because he did things during this match, and I said this to you, if I were paid 7 figures and were main eventing WrestleMania, I would not do this stuff.
No. He did more dangerous things in his wrestling match than the prior two guys did with the tacks and the chairs and the tables and the barbed wire.
I actually think I would take a bump on the tacks before I would do the defining moment to me in this match, which was, first off, AJ did this big dive, and he overshot Petey, and he landed ass first on the barricade.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, your spine's done for, but he continued. So then they're brawling on the apron, and Saban was teasing that he was going to give him a German... Petey, I'm sorry. What did I say?
Saban.
No.
They do look kind of the same.
Yeah, so Petey is teasing a German off the apron. And, this has been teased many times by many different people. Angle has done it, and obviously nobody's ever delivered. Well, today, AJ and Petey delivered. And AJ not only got Germaned off the apron into the barricade, but he, sprung off of his feet so that he could careen into the barricade with even more force than just being Germaned into it.
Yeah.
And I thought, your career just ended. And
Pretty
amazingly,
much.
He continued.
Well, yes, we need to describe this move in more detail. He got big air on this German and then came down arching, and the back of his neck struck the guardrail, and all his weight came down on it.
Yeah.
And then he collapsed in a heap on the floor.
I cannot understate how absolutely just insane this match was.
This was truly suicidal.
Yeah.
This is an excellent way, and I know it's the wrong day for this, but it's an excellent way to die.
Yeah. German.
And then, the first thing they did upon getting back in the ring was to do another German suplex, and they never showed a replay of this, and it was kind of a bad angle, but it looked to me like AJ took this one on his head as well.
Yeah, he did. It was immediately afterwards. He was taken into the ring, and Petey gave him a German, and he deliberately rotated, this being AJ, and landed on his head and his shoulder, and I thought...
in midair, he thought, I'm going to come down on my back. I better do something to change that.
I better do something to make it significantly more dangerous.
Yes, and he did.
So, I mean, oh my gosh, they had this match, and
after these two killer moves, they proceeded to do 15 to 20 more minutes of just stuff, and none of it. No one cared about any of it because they already seen the two biggest parts. And
I was just gonna say, I don't even remember what happened.
Yeah.
What was the finish? I don't remember. I think. Oh wait.
Joe came out.
That's right. Styles clash off the middle rope.
Yes.
And AJ retained the title, so obviously they're setting up AJ versus Samoa Joe for the title, which I fully expect Samoa Joe to win since they are behind him and they are going to push him very strong. So
yes, and this is just this one, probably the stupidest match maybe I've ever seen, but it was really, really dumb. And when AJ made his comeback to silence, and you turned to me and said, I forget what you said, but if you took that move and the fans not getting your comeback, you'd quit in the middle.
I did. I thought if I did what AJ did to try and get this match over, and 10 minutes later I was doing all my near falls and the crowd was sitting there without making any noise, that would be my last match.
This stupid suplex off the apron should have been a 6-month injury angle.
Yeah, or longer.
Yeah.
This was like something where, if I decided, when I decided I was going to hang it up, that's something I would do and just never come back.
Yeah.
This was not a transition spot, which is what it was.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know.
Yeah.
And particularly, I don't know. It really hit me today with everything with Eddie, because you know what I mean? It was...
Why take risks on this particular day?
Well, no, but what I'm thinking is, Eddie was 38, which is awfully young to go, but he should have died 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And
several times.
Part of me was almost thinking today at the press conference that the reason that Chavo seemed to be doing, like I said, he was doing better than I was. And all I could think was Chavo must have many times seen Eddie on death's door.
Yeah.
And, I mean, maybe I'm wrong in that you can never really be prepared for this, but part of me thought that. But anyway, Eddie... Besides, I mean, he'd done a lot of damage to his body. He had done a tremendous amount of damage to his body. And the point is, when you do so much damage to your body with drugs and whatever else, which Eddie, it's no secret, obviously.
No.
You can get clean for 4 years, and he just passed the 4-year mark. And I'm sorry, but the damage had been done.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody mentioned on the board, you greatly damage your heart with drugs. And you stop the drugs, and your heart's just not going to magically heal in a year. I mean, it's severe damage. And I was just sitting here watching AJ thinking, you are doing such a number on yourself right now, and you don't even get it. And you've got a child at home and a wife, and why? Why would you do this? I just... Today, in particular, I was like, this is beyond stupid.
Yeah.
Just totally beyond stupid.
Today, Bix is right, and AJ sucks.
Wow. So
really, right now I cannot argue with that idea.
Yeah. So then we had the main event, which was Jarrett and America's Most Wanted versus Rhino and Team 3D, and they brawled in the crowd for like 7 minutes. And I normally hate crowd brawling, but it's like whatever. They had to follow AJ and Petey just destroying themselves, and Abyss and Sabu destroying themselves. So, like quadruple juice, brawling all over, pile drivers on the ramp, that sort of thing. And really, all I remember at the end was it turned into a way better match than I expected early on.
Yeah.
And the obvious finish, which was the 3D on, I believe, Storm, pinned him. So
sure Storm, yeah.
Setting up the next, the title match, I'm sure, with AMW versus Team 3D at the next pay-per-view. But then the big angle occurred with Christian coming out and taking off his jacket and revealing a Team Canada shirt. And I really don't think anybody in the crowd bought it, to be honest with you. But, of course, he turned and gave Scott D'Amore the Unprettier, which needs a new name. Actually, about 4 years ago, but for sure now.
That song is old.
Yeah. And then, did they give Jarrett the 3D through the table?
The Dudleys set him up for it, and then Team Canada ran out. No, they did. They did, because Christian gave him the cutter.
Yeah, that's right.
The Dudleys lifted Jarrett up, and Christian gave him the cutter to the table, and he tore off a Team Canada shirt and had the TNA shirt underneath, and Christian and the Dudleys all celebrated, which is kind of weird, considering they all made their careers by beating the hell out of each other in TLC matches. But
well, things can be forgotten in a new company, I guess. But
that's right.
Overall, the show ended, and I will not remember anything except AJ's bump, and I will not remember that for good reasons tomorrow.
No, I guess it's like you say, the 2/3 of the fans are seeing this stuff for, if not the first time, then it's very new to them, and I would say on the whole, maybe better than a lot of WWE shows.
Yeah. And really, I mean, as far as, aside from burying AJ for risking his family's future with just outright stupidity, I just, I can't say anything bad about anybody doing anything on this show because they were all doing this show today, and I know that probably the majority of them did not want to. And the same goes...
That's also a good point.
Yeah, and the fans, I could bury them for not really bury them, but I could bury the performers for them not getting into the matches, and it was, they probably had other things on their mind, I'm sure. Millions of Eddie signs, so obviously they did, but I think it was a day where lots of fans just weren't really into seeing the show, but went to the show anyway to support the product. A bunch of wrestlers really didn't want to work, but worked anyway to support the company. And same thing really in WWE. Guys going out there to do a match because they felt that's what Eddie would have wanted, which probably, I'm sure is what he would have wanted.
I buy that.
Yeah.
I can see in WWE his real good friends like Ray and Benoit wanting to have a good match on the Eddie tribute show.
Yeah.
But other than that, I can also see a lot of guys whose hearts would not be in it.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see.
Yep. So that's really it, everybody. I presume laughing here at the absurdity of all of this. So is the Honky Tonk Man, actually. Just thought I'd throw that in there. All right.
Is he a frequent listener?
Let's get serious here. Abyss and Sabu in a no-rope barbed wire match. All I got to say about this match is you guys showed up with taco time, and I was eating a chicken burrito while Sabu and Abyss were being torn to shreds by barbed wire. So who's fucking hardcore now? Huh?
Sabu and Abyss, actually.
Well, yeah,
particularly Abyss. For the rest of his life, he's going to look down on his left arm, and he's going to see a thick pink line from the time he wrestled Sabu in December 2005.
Yeah.
This is the third barbed wire match I've ever seen, and first of all, why the barbed wire match is the opener, I will never understand it, except that, well, yeah, I do.
Well, yeah.
I do. It's
wow.
It's stupid. It's stupid, but I do. But,
why?
So Jarrett can go on last.
No, well, that's part of it. But part of the reason is it takes a long time to put the barbed wire up and take it down.
That's true.
So it's easier to only do it one time during the show than twice.
So it had to be first or last.
Yeah, first or last.
Right.
And it wasn't going on last, so.
Yeah. So there you go. But, the other two I saw were Homicide and Carino in Ring of Honor and Funk and Sabu in ECW. And those both felt like more monumental, historic special events. And this was...
You never saw any Terry Funk and exploding barbed wire cage matches against Atsushi Onita?
No, I have not seen any of those.
Wow, have you, Vint? Or
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
How were they? How would they
They were wild. I had best of Onita tapes.
Does such a tape exist?
It's apparently.
Yes.
But that being said, it's not a block of
they don't officially exist. They're sort of compilations that somebody put together.
I see.
So I won't find this at Best Buy, is what you're telling me.
No.
I see.
How did it compare to this match here, there, Brent?
Well, I would say that that was crazy. That was crazier because they didn't have exploding.
That's right. There were no explosions in this
Nothing
match.
blew up.
Yeah.
No. But this was just about as bloody.
Yeah.
It was bloody and it was scarific and these can't say they didn't work hard and can't say they didn't go through hell.
Yeah. And the finish was Abyss going face first into a board. And then he fell down backwards as he was stuck to the first board.
Yes.
He fell down backwards onto another barbed wire board.
Right.
So he was sandwiched between barbed wire boards.
He was the meat in a barbed wire board sandwich.
He was. And Sabu jumped in the air and landed ass first on the boards, which were over Abyss's head.
Oh, yes.
He did an ass drop onto his head in between the barbed wire. And Sabu, suffice to say, was pinned.
Abyss was pinned.
Abyss, I'm sorry. He was pinned. And, afterwards, the highlight of the match was really when they went backstage and Abyss needed a hug.
Abyss, yes. The physicians were attending to Abyss and they finally got him unhooked from everything and backstage. And as blood poured from his arm and Jim Mitchell was there preaching the word about how he conquered his fear of barbed wire, and Abyss just looked up at him with big, sad puppy dog eyes and reached out and they embraced.
Yes, he needed a hug from Jim Mitchell.
It was really beautiful.
Yeah, what can you do? So then we had Alex Shelley and Roderick Strong versus Matt Bentley and Austin Aries. Really nothing to say about this. It was your average undercard X Division match where nobody gets over, really.
Yeah.
And the one guy of the four that they've been trying to do something with recently, which was Alex Shelley, who's doing the cameraman gimmick, he ended up being pinned. He was the man who was pinned by Matt Bentley, who is a nameless, faceless X Division guy.
Yeah.
So it was just, high spot wackiness.
Yes, it was a lot of fun to watch, and you forgot everything as soon as the incident was done.
Yeah.
And part of the problem is they would try to do at the same time as they were X Division guys doing tons of wacky cool moves, they were also trying to do traditional heel tag stuff, which kind of doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because if you do cool stuff, the crowd wants to like you.
Yeah.
So
the X Division there's some problems with it.
Yeah.
But, they're bigger problems. Brent?
Yes. I have nothing to add. I have nothing to add.
I want you all to know that I love you.
Oh, Jesus. All right. Well.
Jesus Christ.
Thanks, Brent. That was good. Let's get on to the next match. It was Raven and Chris K, who is Canyon, the Grand Canyon. I blatantly stole that. You guys didn't listen to Observer Live today, but I blatantly stole the term Chris Canyon from Nut Bunnies, my Secret Santa partner, and he ended up calling Observer Live, and at the end of his call, he ambushed me on the air and chastised me for stealing his joke. It's true.
Wow.
And
what a vengeful little...
I'd like to go on record here. Yeah, 16 years old, I learned, too, little fucker. But anyway, I should note that many, many years ago, and this will be backed up at some point in the future when I get far back enough on back issues, I had actually used the term Grand Canyon. I believe I said his finisher should be the Grand Canyon. Back me up here, Vince.
I remember something along these lines.
That's right. So I only partially stole it, but anyway, I was served on the radio show.
You got served
by Nut Bunnies. But anyway, Chris K came out and faced Raven.
You've now dropped 2 F-bombs on this show, by the way.
Well,
you want me to put money in the kitty there?
Don't swear on this show, Vince. That's right.
I see.
We, it was a decent match.
Good thing it's internet radio.
The voice of Brent just appears out of nowhere every now and then.
Timing is beyond impeccable.
It really is. But so there was a match and Brent interfered regularly. So anyway, what happened was
Jesus.
Larry came out and wanted him to sign his stupid paper. Look at Brent over there on the couch, just giggling like a child.
I can only see the back of his neck, and it's bright red.
So anyway, they had a match, and it was your basic Raven versus Canyon match, and nothing exciting, nothing exceptional. Raven won with the DDT. Not a bad match or anything like that. What's happening over there? Did you
What's
drop
that noise?
something? Is that your jug of water that you're kicking?
I have no water tonight.
Oh, my God. Please don't break anything, Brent. So, let's get on with things here.
Raven and Chris K.
Yeah. All I know is when I heard Chris K, I kept thinking of the Ohio Valley referee.
Oh, yeah.
And it was not that Chris K. But anyway, afterwards, Larry was upset that Raven had won, so he jumped in the ring and said he was sick of this bullshit, and he wanted him to sign the thing immediately, and Raven said no, and Larry actually physically attacked him. Mm-hmm. And they had to be pulled apart, and Raven was there laughing, and it was actually a pretty darn good little deal right there.
Yeah, for something they've been building to.
Yeah.
The other thing I liked is that Larry
Hopefully
at one
not
point...
a match.
Brent, are you capable of speaking when someone else is not?
I like that Brent just jumps in here. He doesn't wait his turn.
That's right. I'm sorry. Brent, you show us how it's done.
So go on.
But I like that at one point Larry told the fans to shut up. So we actually know for the first time who's supposed to be the heel in this feud.
Yes.
It's Larry.
Yeah, we've now determined that Raven is, in fact, a babyface.
Yes. And other than that, all I could think of during this match was that angle in WCW where Canyon was laying people out with diamond cutters.
That was right.
And that one outside the building.
Yeah.
Shot like 100 yards away.
Yes.
And Canyon comes running in for about 8 seconds before he hits the guy.
Oh, yeah.
Hits the diamond cutter and yells bang.
That was good stuff.
That was awesome.
Oh, boy. So now, Brent, it's your turn. Any comments?
Didn't Larry Zbyszko have a comeback match against Razor Ramon about 7 or 8 years ago?
He probably did, actually.
Scott Hall. Yeah, that's right. Yes.
And who would have thought that Larry's career would last longer?
Well,
everybody.
And so the match was pretty bad then, if I recall. I don't want to see him have a match against Raven now. I really don't.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of stalling. It probably wouldn't be an exciting...
Thank you, Nostradamus.
Yeah, I know. I'm good with this sort of thing, but...
Who's going to be in better shape?
Raven, I'm afraid.
Really?
Actually, I don't know. It may be Larry, because he's taking Morphoplex.
That's right.
So at least he'll have the higher sex drive of the two.
Oh!
We will know that, but... Then we had Team Canada and 4 Live Crew. All I've got to note is that Billy Gunn was wearing... pigtails.
Pigtails, yes.
He was wearing pigtails.
and he also had the sides and the back of his head shaved. And somehow managed to take what hair was left and put it into pigtails. So This is high on the list of just ass ugliest haircuts ever.
Yeah, he had pigtails, and he was wearing short black biker shorts. And I don't think Billy Gunn is trying to look like a homosexual.
You think he looks cool?
Yeah, I think this 41-year-old man in pigtails and short black biker shorts looks in the mirror before the match and just goes, God damn, I'm sexy.
You know, I was unfortunately at the mall today, and I passed by Abercrombie & Fitch, and they had a deal there where they had you could get your picture taken with an A&F model, and there was some goof hanging out in the front of the store with no shirt on, with a line of 12-year-olds as far as the eye could see, and now I'm thinking about this, that's a great job for Billy Gunn.
Wow.
Yes.
A line of 12-year-olds as far as the eye can see?
Yes. 12-year-old girls lining up for pictures of the A&F model. Who do you think shops at Abercrombie & Fitch?
I don't know.
You didn't go to the mall.
I know. I try and avoid that part of the mall. Yeah. So, that may be what Billy Gunn's shooting for.
It could be,
but I don't know. He. The funny thing is, like, Shawn Michaels had a run of very bad outfits and hairstyles. Even he's figured it out. Okay.
All right.
So yeah, even he's sort of figured it out, but Billy Gunn, he hasn't. So anyway, They had a match, and the 4 Live crew has lasted 1 month.
Yeah.
Conan flipped out and hit Billy Gunn with a chair. Actually, this was really, I sort of foreshadowed this myself. I wasn't even really thinking about it, but I was watching them do a promo before the match, and I took one look at Billy Gunn's hairdo and outfit, and I thought, well, no wonder Conan didn't want him here.
No wonder he hates him.
Yeah, this makes sense now. So he did. He turned on him and he beat him up, and then he laid out BG James with the chair shot as well, and Ron Killings, I believe, said, and I quote, "What the fuck?"
He did.
And Conan did not lay him out, so it looks like it'll be 2 Live crew versus 2 Live crew in a 4-man tag at the next show or something of that nature. But
we should mention that Team Canada won.
Oh yeah, they did.
Yeah, he whacked Billy Gunn with a chair, and somebody pinned him.
And told Bobby Roode to climb on top and pin him. So Bobby Roode got his big revenge for losing to Christian for free on TV. So, Brent, any thoughts on this match?
Just Billy Gunn's haircut. My thoughts are that must have been the same haircut that he had when he woke up in the airport when he was finished with WWE.
So anyway,
Vince,
I need to tell you all that while we were watching that show, Brent made that joke, and it was followed by 3 or 4 seconds of complete utter silence. I think even on TV. I think the TV shut up. And
the crowd died.
Yeah, and then Brent said, "Because the wrestlers cut his hair."
I actually didn't hear it the first time, so Brent, I would have laughed actually, but I'm sorry. I blame Vince for that, but
you can. That's fine.
So anyway, it was it was nothing special. Bobby Heenan came out to do the commentary for the next match. It was Simon Diamond and Elix Skipper and David Young, the Diamonds in the Rough versus Sanjay Dutt, Chris Saban, and the Kiss Demon. All I've got to say is just fucking fire Elix Skipper now, because he's going to kill himself. He's going to kill somebody else. Somebody is going to die when Elix Skipper's in the ring. He may have botched every spot.
It's quite possible.
I'm trying to think if he didn't botch any of them. He botched one spot after the other. First he fell on his own head. Then he dropped Sanjay Dutt on his head. And pretty soon he just disappeared and never returned. I don't know if he's
fine with us.
He just gave up and went home or what the deal was. But something, I hate to say that anybody needs to be fired because, I want to see everybody make a living in the business they love. But I'm also looking at the larger picture of I don't want to see anybody get hurt. And I'd rather someone did not have a job in this business than kill themselves or somebody else. And Elix Skipper on this night, I would not book him again.
All you people need to know, both Brian and myself, as we are often admit, we are prone to exaggeration.
Yes.
But I'm going to state an actual fact, a state of fact, an undeniable incident here. Elix Skipper almost killed himself doing a hammerlock reversal.
He did. Landed on his own head.
Never did I think I would see the day
No.
when a blown hammerlock reversal could cost a man his life.
Yes. and it nearly
Today
did.
it happened, and there was more, but that was the pinnacle.
Yeah. So then the baseball guy got involved. AJ
Pierzynski, Piroshki. I
Piro-
like Piroshki.
AJ Piroshki got involved, and he hit a man, Simon Diamond, with a oh jeez.
Bless you.
With a hit him with the home plate. Pardon me. Vince, take over.
Johnny Damon was there for, I guess, just because all baseball players sit together, and Johnny Damon also had home plate because I guess baseball players carry a home plate with them wherever they go. And
all right, I'm back.
Yeah, Pierzynski broke the home plate over Simon Diamond's head, and they all piled on and pinned him. And after all the wackiness and near deaths, everyone was happy.
Bobby Heenan did commentary. He was funny.
Bobby Heenan was funny.
He was real funny, actually.
I seem to recall, and I could be making this up with my bizarre, overactive mind, but I seem to recall years and years ago when Simon Diamond was in ECW, Joey Styles would always talk about how he used to be a minor league catcher, which I thought it was ironic in this feud because AJ Pierzynski is also a catcher.
Oh.
So he was throwing in some very subtle baseball in-jokes there the whole time.
I see.
I'm talking about his tools of ignorance of the catcher's equipment.
I was out of my league.
Yeah, and that I've not added one iota to your enjoyment of the show either.
No, nothing.
No.
But Brent, I'll bet you enjoyed this match as a baseball fan.
Yeah, I
Put your mouth next to that thing.
I did.
The mic.
I like Bobby Heenan's commentary, and it was good to see the baseball players on there.
But you weren't paying attention.
I was paying somewhat attention between. Actually, I was paying most attention during that match because of Heenan's commentary.
All right, good.
Yeah.
I think we can move on now. Actually, the highlight. There is a highlight. After the match, the wrestlers gave gifts to the baseball players, those being TNA championship rings, at which point Don West screamed, "More bling bling!" That was some good stuff.
I love Don West.
Then we had Christian Cage and Monty Brown, and the good news is they had a better match, at least Monty Brown did, than last month, which he very much needed here. And Christian sold like a mother bear. He did some crazy stuff. It looked like he was trying to try some things he was not allowed to do in WWE. Some looked okay, including a dive, pretty much from post to post outside. Mm-hmm. Some of it, including a tornado DDT, did not in any way look good. So, they had a little match, and, Heat was all right, and ref took a bump. Monty hit the Alpha Bomb. Christian kicked out. There was an exposed turnbuckle, and Monty rammed into it, and Christian hit the unprettier for the pin. And there was a lot of talk about who should win this match. And, I said Christian. I stand by that. They paid a lot of money for Christian. And for him to lose his first match in would have been a bad idea. And Monty Brown someday will be a superstar. But after that match with Jeff Hardy, he does not need to be winning the world title next month. He is at least a year away from being the top guy in this company. And Christian is going to be there a hell of a lot sooner. So this was the right finish.
Yeah, and the way they did it was actually they protected Monty really good, too, because they tore the turnbuckle pad off about 10 minutes before the finish, and then Monty bonked into it, and so it was clean. It was not like there was a million run-ins or a foreign object. He just hit an unfortunate part of the ring and then ate the finisher and got pinned.
Yeah.
My only concern is how old is Monty?
I don't know. He's not that old.
He's not?
No.
Because they always talk about him playing in the Super Bowl with the Patriots, and I assumed it was in the past 5 years. But then they showed clips of it once, and it was from 1995. So he's over 30 for sure, probably 35 or more.
If anybody can help us out, let me know, because I don't know off the top of my head. But Brent, your thoughts on the show? Brent, are you there? God damn it! Where the fuck are you? Speak. Fucking so retarded.
I was in the bathroom for most of that match, so I don't have a lot to say.
All that for that?
Yes.
Thank you. Let's move on here. Vince is dying over here. Let's get moving.
I shall say no more.
Team 3D and AMW in a tables match.
Yay.
The highlight was Bubba Ray actually using the term Dudleys in a pre-match promo, so they'll be in big trouble. And they've actually thought of a creative way to avoid having to say, Devon, get the tables. Bubba now goes 3, 2, 1, and on 1, or maybe it's 1, 2, 3, regardless, when he finishes the countdown, the crowd chants,
Get the tables. Sorry. I had my hand up here with the microphone like this. I thought you knew what I was going to do.
No, I thought you were going to say something about Brent.
Oh, no.
Brent, are you alive over there? Were you around for this match?
Yes, I was.
I like the sound of the mic being picked up, as it's apparently like on the other side of the couch, and I have to call your name and you have to go grab it. But
Next time, can we hear footsteps as you run to go get the mic?
I want to hear Brent's take on this first. Let's hear it, Brent.
They take on one match.
Oh, what?
What match are we on?
The Dudleys.
Oh, you're not even listening to the show we're doing now.
The
Dudleys match.
Yes.
Yes. What did you think of this?
The Dudleys fought AMW in a tables match.
Right. Yes, I watched that. Well, I thought that Bubba was out of shape, and Devon was a little bit less out of shape, and the match was not all that sharp.
Brendan, it took you a minute to come up with that. I had to stand up. My belly's cramping.
Vince, your thoughts on the little match right there?
Hang on, I need another second or two to recover.
Well, let me get into it. They had a match, and it was a pretty damn good little brawl right here. And the finish, it was tables match to put both men through the table. What's he doing over there?
Brendan, you okay? All right, moving on. The finish was...
My gosh. So they had to put two men through a table. So the first man to go through a table was James Storm, who was put through a table with the death sentence off the top. And Devon sat on his face, applying the death sentence, and he was done for. And then they took Harris up on the ramp and gave him a 3D through the other table. Yes, Brent, I see you lifting the mic up like you're going to say something.
Yeah, I was just thinking that was the Monty Python special.
What?
Monty Python, the British comedy troupe from the 70s. Yes. Eric Idle, John Cleese.
The actual state of inebriation is a happy place to be.
Explain, Brent.
Well, they had a song, Sit on My Face.
Oh, my God in heaven.
Stop hitting the mic, goddammit.
Yes, Brent, they did in fact have a song called Sit on My Face.
Well, the show has gone completely off the deep end here. You know, I'm looking at Mike Tenay right now, and he's got the exact look on his face actually that I do. All right, let's get down to business here.
Sorry, everyone.
So anyway, the good guys won, and Storm was stretchered out afterwards. We may need a stretcher for Brent to get him out of the house, actually. But on a more important matter, Samoa Joe...
I thought...
Yes?
In a quick nutshell, this is a totally non-formula tag team match, and in this case, it was a good thing, because it was new and different. So...
Thank you.
I wanted to share that.
For attempting to inject some professionalism in this show today. Brent, I'm going to leave you out of this one until we get through with it. I'll give you some time to gather your thoughts. AJ Styles and Samoa Joe. Vince, I know you want to start.
Who daddy? They beat the rat out of each other. I know you hate that saying. They beat the fuck out of each other.
Thank you.
That's number 3.
Shut up! You deserve that.
For, I don't know, 30 minutes or so.
Yes.
This was all kinds of awesome, and you can throw out all the superlatives you like. You want to call it match of the year? That's fine. You want to call it best match in the history of TNA? I got no problem with that.
Yeah.
You want to call it best...
Well, I have a problem with it.
Right.
It was pretty goddamn great, though, but go on.
I was going to say best match of AJ Styles' career. Maybe not Joe's, because he had the Kibashi deal. But it was all sorts of awesome. Just phenomenal. Samoa Joe may be the best big man since Brock Lesnar, at least.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just awesome. And he'll sit there and he'll kick AJ just in the face and just beat him down and beat him down and beat him down, and then he'll sneer at him like just something disgusting he doesn't even want to touch, and he'll throw this little kick to the shoulder, and it's just as awesome as all those stiff kicks. He is so great. Samoa Joe is God.
This was a great, great, great match. The last 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, it was like my only problem with the match, as far as calling it the best match ever in TNA or anything like that, was it was just the last 2 minutes, the place should have just been going nuts, and they sort of weren't. They were I don't know if they were burnt out or what, but I shouldn't actually say anything negative because buy the pay-per-view to see this replay.
Oh yeah,
immediately. It was.
You can't do that by the DVD.
I mean, it was really, really, really great.
Oh, yes.
It was really... The other problem is I also watched the finals of the Differ Cup last night.
Oh, that may have been better?
That was all sorts of awesome. But and the place was just going absolutely hog wild for the near falls at the end. And this was sort of missing that. But, I mean, it was really... I mean, here's what I'll say. If they would have gone home 2 minutes earlier when AJ went up top and Samoa Joe almost gave him the muscle buster off the middle rope, that would have... it would have probably been the best match in TNA history. But I don't know. It was just something about the finish that I think took it down a notch. But hey, if you want to argue it's the best one ever, go for it.
Yep.
Make my day.
It's a perfectly reasonable thing to say.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It was just, I was trying to describe this match in the newsletter, and I ran out of great things to say about it. So when you're writing a review like that, something obviously is going very, very well.
Yeah.
AJ, there was one spot where AJ was just out of the blue, Vince, back me up here. I screamed, somebody's going to die.
The setup for this was Joe was on the floor, and AJ grabbed the rope like he was going to do a pescado.
Yes.
A very basic move.
And
Bryan screamed, someone's going to die. And I thought, well, probably, but not right now.
Sure enough, AJ jumped over and landed on the apron. Joe kicked his legs out from underneath him, and he landed face first on the apron. Joe then grabbed his legs and gave him a giant swing, and with incredible fury, swung him into the barricade, and that was the end of AJ Styles.
I think he was trying to break the barricade.
Yes, he broke him. He broke AJ Styles.
And Bryan said, oh, and I said, oh, God!
Oh, yes.
I marked out so much during this match.
I may watch this match again because it may very well be significantly better than I'd first thought. But anyway, it was very, 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 very good. Brent, you have anything to add?
I did have...
Are you turning the mic on and off in between? Just leave the goddamn thing on, please.
He can pay the power bill.
Yes. Go on.
Yes, if you're looking for superlatives, you could always go and refer to the book, The 100 Greatest Wrestlers. There's plenty of superlatives in there.
All right. What did you think of the match?
I thought that it was that it was incredible. I don't think you can downgrade the match for the crowd reaction.
Well, there is that. Yeah, you do have a point there.
I'm thinking you may be right though. I was in my own little world, so I'm not entirely tuned in what the crowd was doing. But I know in the middle they were jumping up and down and screaming and clapping and cheering, and TNA fans, with the exception of Jarrett, they pretty much cheer everyone.
Yeah,
they have the Abyss song and the Bentley bounce and all that stuff, and they just love to cheer. They bought Joe as a heel, and they got in all these near falls.
Well, they did until afterwards when he went to kill AJ Styles.
Except for that part,
and the fans saying Joe is going to kill you.
Yeah,
it's a hell of a heel turn right there. But here's what I'll say about the match. I think it went 19 minutes. For about 16 of those 19 minutes, this was a 5-star match. And I think by the time they hit 19, it had downgraded to about 4 3/4. That was my initial rating for it. But, I mean, still, a 4 3/4 star match.
Nothing wrong with that, by the way.
That was worth my $29.95 right there.
Yes.
So, good stuff. And then who had to follow that? Jeff Jarrett.
Why, young Mr. Jarrett.
And Rhino. And I will say this about this match. It was horribly overbooked. I mean, this was overbooked to... I mean, I've seen a lot of horribly overbooked stuff in my life, and this was up there with the worst of it.
Yeah.
700 people ran in. Objects. They did every trick in the book. Crowd brawling. Bumps off high things. Brawling on the ramp.
Totally pointless bumps off high things.
Teasing the count out, which actually was a good spot. And I will say that by the time... And it was actually the same thing. I mean, if you take off the last 2 minutes of overbooking, by the time they got to the last 3 minutes or so of the match, it had turned into a real good match.
Yeah.
And then they had to just overbook it half to death. Jarrett won when the 74th man ran in, that being Scott D'Amore, hit him with a stick, and then Jarrett gave Rhino the stroke off the middle rope onto some chairs and pinned him. But, I mean, up until that point, this was, it really picked up. But
yeah, there were parts of it that were really good, and in a way, it was every Jeff Jarrett title defense you've ever seen.
Yes.
So, hey, if you're a Jarrett fan, this is a good one.
I see Jeff Jarrett backstage talking to Rhino and going, well, we'll just go out there and do the usual, brawl in the crowd for a while, and, do our stuff, and then we'll figure out the finish.
There was one point where they were brawling in the crowd, and they went to the back, kind of near backstage, and there was a scaffold there for reasons I cannot think of. Why would there be a scaffold inside this building? They climbed up a level.
Well, so they could jump off it.
Well, I know that, but
there's
I thought maybe
no other reason.
Maybe they would paint the ceiling or something.
Maybe they painted the impact zone that evening.
And then Rhino took a bump off through a table and was back on his feet.
Perhaps there'd been a buffet.
Later.
I don't know.
It'll never get old.
No, it won't. But Brent, I see you giggling over there. You've got something to say.
Not this time.
Brent, we need you here every time, dude. You need to be a regular on this show, the Bryan, Vinny, and Brent show. Just throwing in a comment.
Give me a call.
The mic off is the best part.
And whenever I have a random comment, I'll just throw it in there.
That's right. That's what we need.
Like a plan to me.
We actually should get some just random Brent sound bites and just throw them in here randomly.
I think everything Brent says is random.
It very well may be. But afterwards, they had the big surprise. And Brent, hold on a second. I know you're going to want to say something about this. The lights went out. And Mike Tenay actually said, "What the hell?" Those were his exact words. Suddenly, Sting's music played, and a Sting logo appeared on the big screen. Everybody started screaming and cheering, and the lights came back on, and in the ring was a chair. There was a chair in the ring, and on the chair was a bat and boots and Sting's jacket. And the fans...
This is not what they wanted to see.
This was not what they wanted to see. And Brent, you went into a tirade on the couch. So what were your thoughts when the lights went out and Sting's music played?
Well, first I want to comment that on having the chair, and they had his ring jacket and the bat in the ring. If they're going to bring Sting in there, rather than actually have him there, I felt that was a good way to build to it, rather than have him there. But I felt that he's a very poor choice. The guy's in his mid-40s. His heart isn't into it. I suppose the part-time thing's not a big deal, considering it's only a few dates a month. But he's been there before. It's a bad choice. You're talking about the future of TNA. He sounds like the past of WCW. It's ridiculous.
That's right.
Profound words of wisdom from Brent Bremen.
All show we'd been waiting for profound words from Brent, and he finally delivered. That's right, Brent. Do you know they're going to build the whole company around him?
Are you kidding me?
No. The idea is he's not going to be a part-time guy. He's going to be the man for 2006.
They can't be serious.
No.
Why don't they go and pick somebody who's about 20 years younger and has a future in the business and actually cares and isn't in there for the money?
Preach on! That's right. But no, that's the plan. He's the man.
Whose idea was this?
Well, Dixie Carter.
I'm okay with it then. Hang on.
She felt they needed more stars. And so that's who they chose, Sting.
Unbelievable.
I wish we had a webcam of Brent. He's even more... He's just appalled right now. And he's filled with passion, and it's a great thing. But
well, Brent does... besides his profound wisdom, he made a very good point in that they've brought him in before.
Yeah, he's been here.
And I don't think they made any money off him.
No, they didn't.
No.
And he came in last time, and he didn't do a goddamn thing. He went through the motions. He had some lackluster matches, and I think that's the key is, did you remember that he'd been in before, Vince?
Yes.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you'd forgotten, and I just now reminded you, because I was going to say that's very telling right there. But yeah, he's been there before, and he's going to come back, and he's going to be the man.
Well, I think I did say he's been there before, correct, as in I wasn't sure he'd been there.
Hopefully things will change. There's a reason they said the new face of TNA, but, they have Christian. You know what I mean? They do actually have some people there. They have Samoa Joe. I realize he's in the X Division now, but
damn Joe.
Joe, God, I'd have no problem. Build the whole company around Joe.
I'd build the whole company around the X Division.
Me.
I don't know about the whole X Division because
Okay, I wouldn't say I built the whole company around the whole X Division.
the main
Does
X
Dixie
Division.
Carter remember that Sting was there before?
She may not, actually.
That's entirely possible.
But, yeah, so... Oh, and Rhino did a planche in the main event. I just wanted to bring that up because I'm watching it right now. A Pescado, I'm sorry.
Pescado, yes. Perhaps the largest Pescado I've ever seen.
It's up there, but...
Maybe Silva. That'd be it.
Yeah. But Joe's done some wacky dives, but...
I think Rhino's bigger than Joe.
Who?
I think Rhino's bigger than Joe.
I don't know. Well, maybe.
He's one of the deceptively tall guys because he never stands up straight.
He's also very short. Rhino? Rhino's short.
He's like Jarrett's height.
5'10", 5'11", maybe.
You think he's tall? All right.
Yeah, but...
I thought it was like 6 feet.
So anyway, overall, I mean, buy the pay-per-view just to see the AJ Styles match. There are some problems with this company, but we all know what they are, and they need to be addressed. And Tuesday will be very interesting because they're going to tape... I don't know if it's going to tape 3 or 4 shows, but they're taping a whole bunch of shows on Tuesday because of the Christmas holiday. So we will know a lot about the future of this company on Tuesday. So
God, those last 2 shows are going to be bad when they're on. Just dead crowds.
Yeah, and I'm going to be surprised. I predict I haven't got a rating for Thursday yet.
That's usually bad news.
That may be telling, and I'm going to be interested to see the rating for next Saturday as well because the last time they were preempted, the rating plummeted for about 2 weeks. So we shall see what happens. But overall, worth it for the AJ Styles match and really for the main event up until the last couple of minutes. But
and lots of other good matches, too.
Yeah, there were some, there was nothing horrible on the show. A lot of the matches were your average 2-star, 2.25-star matches, nothing exceptional, but really nothing horrendously bad either. So I give it a thumbs up.
You don't say.
Vince?
I 2 thumbs up is not strong enough. I am raising both my arms high. I can't do that because I have the mic. I'm raising my left arm high into the air.
Without the AJ Joe match, it would have been a thumbs in the middle.
Leaning up.
Leaning up, yeah, but it would be a thumbs in the middle.
Yeah, that may be true.
Brent, your final thoughts?
Thumbs up.
That's good.
I'll give it 6 out of 10 stars.
You had to throw that in there, didn't
Brent has
you?
invented his entirely own new rating system.
No, that's from the Torch, actually. That's
is
where
it?
you got that one, yeah. So, well, Brent, it was fun having you here today, and perhaps we'll have you back for the next TNA pay-per-view, and we'll rile you up, maybe get you a little bit of wine before we get going, and really get you giddy, but it was a good time, so thanks for being on, and Vince, we'll see you on Tuesday for the next episode of the Bryan and Vinny